Chapter 1051, My perception of time jitters and overlaps, making it extremely hard to tell if the creepy, lifelike smile of the demon before me is truly real or a hallucination in the void. Every fragment of his being squirms and blends into whirlpools of gravity spinning and collapsing in strange directions. It's like a near-infinite veil of existence is constantly being lifted before my eyes. Every time I latch onto the inkling of something real, more truths seem to be uncovered, and I doubt the validity of the existence of the scenes I've just witnessed. My mind quickly attempts to adapt to the violent shifts, and for brief instances, it feels as though small areas of space are held intact. Yet, the moment I look away and lose focus, everything glitches back to the confusing state of horror. You've met your end, and you are not even intelligent enough to realize it. The frail minds of lesser beings are so simple. You've delivered yourselves right to me, echoes into my mind, but this time, the fragmented images of the demon's lips moving are transmitted with the words. When I try to sync them up with the waves of telepathy over and over, they never fit quite right. It's like an annoying itch I can't scratch. There are pieces missing, but I do not know what the missing parts even are. Everything in this state feels like I'm trying to see my own reflection in a broken mirror. But every time I try to fit the pieces back together, more break and crumble to dust. I can't even properly see my own body. The only constant images left in my mind are the three merging cores in my chest and the constant gravitational pull of the silver threads pulsing through me. The heavy sword in my grasp stays a constant too, but the small tip that has pierced this demon's flesh is completely lost from all my senses. It is swept up in this eerie, glitching and oscillating nightmare. I can't tell if time has passed or if I'm receiving this next wave of telepathy immediately after the first, but the demon's voice echoes through my consciousness again. Do you see now how that dragon has led you wrong? You are not gifted. You are not special. Fate is not real, and it was never on your side. Only true strength can prevail. Talent, fortuitous events, or your cheap legacy can't save you now. I understand that collection of glyphs even better than you could ever know. I studied it for more years than your lesser minds could comprehend. I created a whole new path deep within the demonic legacy. It is not as simple as just a one-dimensional power transfer that the creator's legacy grants. You too have been guided to a dead end in the dark. Do you think that because you have fractured the remnants of my soul that I cannot use the ether you brought me from the realms below to resummon it? I attempt to digest and understand its words. But even their meanings seem to twist and slip away from my consciousness. It's like I hear them, but my active mind is still living in a state of existence where the words were never spoken. Another burst of noctis words flows into my mind in the same fashion. This will be nothing but another insignificant event in the many eras to come. The fallen one's last desperate attempt. When you are gone, and I grasp the silver threads he left behind, I can restore my soul to its former glory, and there will be no legacy strong enough left in the lower realm to contend with the new demons birthed by the system itself for eons to come. Then another, that's right. We are not natural races. We are the very opposite. The dark side of mana, destined to exist long after you all perish. After this burst of telepathy, something stirring deep in my soul shifts. Instead of trying to make sense of the seemingly random fractals and bending space and time around me, I allow the part of my subconscious that has begun to unravel the hidden side of the creator's legacy to deal with the brain-melting phenomena around me. It is only because I sense a pattern that I cannot comprehend, yet it holds a very close resemblance to an equally impossible problem I still can't solve. These two complex problems start to merge, and the fragments of my active mind that remain trying to perceive this madness simply stop trying to fit them into boxes of thought I already understand. Instead, I watch the void spin and bend, and let all of the background knowledge I have accumulated slip away, only to focus on learning from scratch. For a frame of time, everything goes dark, and every single unanswered question about this void disappears completely. I get a moment of complete and total silence. Then, in the next frame of thought, reality around me bursts into view with a blinding and vibrant existence. The silver-cord demon in front of me looks crystal clear, without a single stray thread or energy particle. I can see it all, especially the micro-movements of his face and his moving lips that speak to me in a deep and disdain-filled tone. You still know nothing. Hits my ears in perfect clarity, like no telepathy is being used at all. Then the two clawed hands of the demon reaching up in the air toward the shattered soul array move down extremely quick and grab hold of both the blades, threatening to pierce his chest. A dense pulse of energy ripples through the demon, through our blades, and into our bodies. As the sensation of an extremely potent realm wave starts to creep into my consciousness, so does the total comprehension of the mind-numbing Illusions I just witnessed. This demon's complete system status now shines bright before my eyes. Chapter 1052. The familiar lines of system text I see when scanning all living beings appear bright silver in my mind. Just like others, certain skills and buffs feel heavier to read. The most potent and sharp collection of numbers that jumps out at me first is the LV 9,940,167 at the very top. It is the highest level of existence I've ever seen, unlike the many powerhouses I witnessed in the purple zone, some reaching over level 1 million. The gap in strength does not properly convey the strength of the numbers I see. Every number I stare at feels like it carries far more weight than any status screen I've ever seen before. Understanding this fact brings waves of memories to the forefront of my mind. All of the gaps that were bent away from my eyes and Noctis memories start to fill in, instantly. Every single memory I've absorbed replays with a view of this demon's full status screen attached. I feel the immense effort that each level took in order to consolidate. Sometimes, tens of thousands of years would pass before a single level would flicker upward. It makes connections in my mind, back to my own experiences in the human world, when I experienced a skill Ember would use. High levels of the Plunderer perks allow raw mana drained by a soul-bonded pair to slowly enhance one's level. I see the millions of levels slowly drained from the origin plane tick up on this demon's status, a single level in its later years amounting to the total amount of mana left in the lower realm right now. The amount of energy control and mental fortitude gained from such long and tedious methods of leveling up now makes the immense raw strength of this demon far more understandable. Its fundamental understanding of power is based on the fact that only billions of years of time can make one strong enough to defeat it. Its thoughts were proven time and time again, as every opponent that ever came to face it was of a far lower level, and in turn, at a far lower realm of understanding in many of the energy forms it wields. Since it claimed the title of Overseer, it was forced to only grow stronger in this way. No one else in the system was capable of being its opponent. In the past, I've faced similar obstacles. Even though one can refine their mana control to defeat system users of higher levels doesn't mean there aren't limitations. One must gain a few hundred levels before they can start to tap into this power. The same goes for refining chi, or even feeling the first few wisps of divine threads. Before attempting either, a system user needs to go through at least 1 or 2 rank ups, surpassing level 500 or 1000, to begin gaining the proper edge. In order to gain any divine bodies or greater forms, the system user must surpass level 10,000. They are natural built-in limiters within the system. With some wiggle room, of course, but not much, it is extremely unlikely for system users to ever awaken celestial bodies capable of wielding chi refined past the medium quality ranking, and with dense enough mana to merge with it. Without a proper rank up surpassing the level 100,000 mark, the utilization and proper integration of this energy would never fully click. Very recently, I felt this bottleneck at level 1 million, when my rank up would not fully allow me to integrate my glyphs and primordial aura's next stage of progression until all of the proper systems were aligned. Now, watching this demon inch closer and closer to the next stage of a rank up, I want to let out a laugh as I realize the facts this demon never grasped. Its words still ring out while it grabs both our swords. You still know nothing. Yet, after hearing its rants about how it believes its addition to the demon's legacy has made it a greater version than the one it copied, and feeling its crude and inefficient use of the energy it sits in, I realize yet again its understanding of reality is far too limited. He cannot see that what he is trying to attempt is impossible with the means available. Even if I never showed up to stop him, the separation of his glyphs and this condensed essence would never survive long enough to withstand the decay of this void. His only source of new levels has abandoned him, eternally left without hope of ever ranking up again. The sensation of this demon's mental pressure building up over the years is fresh in my mind. Although it is terrifyingly powerful, it is also extremely constricted. There is a constraining pressure that surrounds it, not allowing it to shift into the desired realm, like an iron bubble around this demon's mind. Even when the feeling of a realm wave starts to pulse through Maria and I through our blades, I can clearly see the skill that is activating in this demon's status labeled Spacetime Manipulation, Primordial Grade. At first glance, it appears like an unbeatable ability. Especially after feeling the pressure it produced as a defensive measure while we were still floating aimlessly through the void, I can see and feel all of the spinning and churning microscopic glyphs within the wave of energy that flows our way. The first few wisps of my aura that touch it are torn apart into billions of pieces. Some rapidly decaying thousands of years and dying instantly, while others are trapped in time, not moving at all. It is exactly the same as what I felt before when stray bits of a realm wave touched me, yet now, the strongest veins of silver threads in my body, surrounded by condensed gel, are not affected at all by this pulse of light. With every bit of essence it touches, my perception falls deeper and deeper into the wave, understanding its intricate glyph structure and integration with the system more. Instead of sacrificing the infected essence and trying to run away, the corner of my energy form's lips turns upward to show a grin. And a surge of strange energy bursts out of my converging cores right back down my arms to collide with the wave. Chapter 1053. All of the fluctuations and spinning microscopic glyphs within this demon's system and the skill he activates are laid bare in front of my eyes. The mysterious sensations that felt like ominous, untamed magic in its memories, and even in its form before my eyes, now look like nothing more than simple systems. It's all just pieces of a puzzle that can be fit together. Activating skills present on one's status automatically triggers all of these pieces into existence, allowing for complex actions to be made. However, there is another way to achieve the same result. The wave of strange energy I release, pulsing out from my merging cores, is a complete mirror image of the system activation coming at us from Noctis. A simultaneous mental link rushes through Maria's mind, and her cores also burst outward with a slightly altered version sparkling with rainbow light. There was no formal system activation, but the essence of the energy being pushed toward our enemy is identical. Every single microscopic spinning glyph and attachment to the void is being replicated and forcefully pushed outward. It is like we're creating a brand new array, with countless functions all merging together. At the point of this force's emergence, I feel an abundance of emotions as memories link themselves to these sensations. The first slightly eerie one being the very feeling I experience every time I absorb new skills automatically through the system. There is no new line lit up in my list of skills, but I can feel a heavy shadow in the blank space of my status where this skill could be. I've manually recreated a system function, and it is struggling to quantify the output of energy I'm producing. In the depths of my mind, I can almost see this skill flickering in and out of my status with a sharp silver light. This is not the only thing my subconscious floats to, it also explores the actual function of this space-time manipulation skill. After instantaneously recreating it from scratch, I can also see the exact limits and functions it holds. According to the amount of pure energy siphoned into the skill, it is capable of creating pockets of either extremely slowed or extremely sped up time. There is no function capable of moving backward, only forward at a multitude of desired rates. The entire existence of that demon in the void makes total sense. The pool of consciousness we cut through to get to its main body was being used as fuel for this skill. The denser the energy form used, the more drastic the time flow difference can be. The narrative has been taken without authorization. If you see it on Amazon, report the incident. It also triggers many memories from the lower and upper realms within my own life, the first being the realm waves that would distort time between sections of the construct. The functions of these waves feel so simple now that I look back at them, yet, there are also much smaller instances where a similar force was used. The first that comes to mind being the void creepers back on the human world, and the mana-based accelerated cultivation chambers that were made by the craftsmanship dashboard of the system. Both of which created small isolated worlds using enormous amounts of energy, yet worked in mysterious ways until now. Even their mechanical makeups all seem extremely simple to recreate now that I'm witnessing matter bend at the mercy of these systematic collections of glyphs. The demon's true system-based realm wave clashes with the artificially summoned copies coming out of our cores. And a devastating explosion of energy pulses into the void. An overconfident grin on the demon's face quickly turns to one of shock, then fear, then pure rage. An overwhelming force of strength drags my blade to the side. I watch the silver demon's clawed hand gripping around its sharp pointed edges, not caring at all that its flesh is being cut through. Moments ago, I felt entirely trapped in time, but as the demon drags me and the blade away, I feel the grip of the void loosening. Instead, now it just feels like I'm swimming through extremely thick molasses. Maria is dragged away in another direction to the opposite side of the orb, and Noctis lets out a demonic screech followed by another pulse of silver light emanating out of his entire body. A demon-shaped realm wave explodes outward as he lets go of both our swords, but faces a palm toward each of us. It does not appear as though we're far away, but the distance between myself and Maria is equivalent to multiple galaxies. I feel the strength of our soul bond trying to pull us closer, but there is a demon blocking our path. Even the instant relay between our memories starts to lag ever so slightly. To withstand this attack we have to rely only on our own strength. The instant the wave of silver light crashes into both of our forms, radiant artificial realm waves burst back and tear wide open holes to allow us through. As the demon's screech comes to an end, both of its palms are stuck through by blades of fire and ice. And they do not stop. The force pierces deep into this demon's arms, splitting them in half as it tries to hold us back. How have you learned my skill? It is a unique skill only born from the first generation of demons. No other races can ever learn it. That is impossible. The innermost portion of this sphere of essence has become filled with countless silver threads, many of which fall into the depths of my blade, and others being blasted out of the white bubble of shattered glyphs around us. When they touch the darkness of the void, they fold and bend away into invisible pockets of space and do not return to the demon's core. The total amount of silver threads in this demon is being diminished. I see it happening with my senses, and also feel it with the next pulse of a realm wave that it releases, at barely over half the strength of the first. Chapter 1054, How is this possible? I felt your strengths when you entered the membrane. You were not capable of this power. I'm certain. Could the meaningless rambles of that dragon possibly be true? Very strange shifts are happening in the void all around us. Not only am I receiving data from my own senses, but I'm also receiving a live spectate feed directly linked to Ember's consciousness. It shows a very strange contrast of events. From the Golden Dragon's point of view, being a witness in the void, Maria and I are still stabbing this demon in the chest with our blades. Time is passing, but it appears as though the speed in which it is has shifted drastically, and there is a very strange invisible bubble of lag. It appears as though we're frozen in time in the same pose as moments ago, yet at the outer edges of the shattered soul tie array there are bursts of purple gel and potent silver threads exploding outward into the void. Many of the fractured portions of the arrays where glyphs are broken apart and leaking energy show reflections of the following. Clash. It is like glitching fragments of time are catching up to the current present moment, yet Ember is perceiving them at random scattered instances, the more energy that hits the bubble. Shattering it further, makes more and more of these reflections glitch and burst out into the void. It is a fascinating phenomenon to witness in the back of my mind while I swing my sword at the demon again. This time, invoking its innate abilities, allowing potent bits of my aura to manifest deep crimson copies of my sword in this heavy pool of purple consciousness. It takes a considerable amount of mental strain, and I feel the very act of doing so force my cores to merge closer. Instead of the millions of sword copies I managed to summon in the purple zone, the maximum I'm able to conjure are 2 additional manifestations hovering over my shoulders, unlike the blade in hand. That holds a sea of heavy silver threads pour into my body. The copies I summon fold out of the void, just like the summoned threads that tether my energy forms together. They feel exactly the same in my mind, like it is energy I fully command. On the other side of the demon, an overwhelming silver, white, blue, and rainbow-hued glow begins emanating from the core of Maria's sword. It glistens and pulses in her eyes, cores in her chest, halo above her head, and the angel wings that propel her forward with a single flap. An infinitely thin line of crystal and light cuts through the darkness as she slashes forward with her sword. Blue and white tinted aura is left behind, leaving a static silver sensation covering what looks like a rainbow mirror. Freezing the demonic gel it slices through, Noctis lets out another screech that echoes through the void, letting out a pulse of silver threads in order to move out of the way from this life-threatening strike. In his own pool of consciousness, he is far more nimble than us, but obviously is limited by the amount of silver threads left at his disposal. The thin icy line of devastation still manages to slice off his entire arm at the shoulder, and creates what looks like a slanted, shifted cut through space in between the two parts. His silver arm that was already brutally damaged by the first confrontation now floats away from him through the void. Its demonic pressure slowly being overwhelmed by an icy rainbow essence. Even though Noctis dodged a fatal strike, he still used up another large portion of energy, and positioned himself in the void moving toward the direction my swords are slicing down. Maria and I don't have his agility, but our minds are still also perfectly synced, allowing for her attacks to act as perfect positioning moves for mine. My sword aims right for the center of the demon's back, yet the next explosive realm wave that erupts from his lower half to propel him upward makes it clear. I won't be getting an easy kill shot either. The sword in my grasp slices through half his remaining arm, and the 2 floating blades by my side land one in his leg, and the other lodges deep in his stomach as he turns to leave. The brutal heavy force of my true soul sword easily tears through this demon's flesh and destroys his hand in a fiery red metallic glow. However, the copies are not as powerful. They only manage to stab halfway through, and the further away from my cores they get, the weaker my control over them becomes. I mentally detonate the 2 manifested blades before our distance becomes too great. Enormous red-stained gaping holes explode, terrorizing the demon's pristine silver primordial form. Quickly, as I lose my mental hold on these detonated manifestations, I already begin channeling my focus to create more. The sensation of multiple realm waves triggering from the depths of this demon's core permeates through his consciousness. The weight of his silver threads remaining in his body quickly diminishes, he glows less bright as the total density wanes. However, with every wave he sends out, I have to counter with my own. Instead of solely attacking, I have to take one step back and defend. The lost limbs and enormous holes in his body begin to heal before my eyes. But in a single slash I'm able to send a replicated mirrored realm wave of my own through the void to destroy multiple pulses he's sent my way. He's getting desperate. At first glance it appears as though he's burning through every last thread left in his immortal core to fend off our strikes. Doing so would only buy him a few more exchanges, leaving him far too weakened to fight back afterward. Yet, as I take in the simultaneous spectate feed of Ember's vision outside this array, I watch the crimson eyes of that golden dragon titan with an extremely serious demeanor. His gaze only focuses on a single reflection of cracked passing time, and it leads deep into the center of that demon's chest. Chapter 1055, a sharp pressure starts to manifest deep in the center of the silver-cored demon's chest. You think I waited here all this time to be defeated by 2 humans? I refuse to accept this fate. This is merely my final tribulation. That dragon attempting to push another veil of falsehoods upon me. I will not give in. The invisible pressure ripples throughout the purple gel we float in, but doesn't affect its movements or physical makeup at all. The only force that reacts to this shockwave is the half-shattered soul array that surrounds us like a bubble. When it does, many of the complete, unbroken glyphs on its surface start spinning and waking from their eternal slumber, sending waves of energy deep into the void. In the many memories I've already absorbed from this demon's past, I can tell many of the bursts of aura sent out are potent waves of consciousness, mostly used to contact demons still within the upper realm. Or, at other times, a way to activate arrays left behind to contain and trigger realm waves. Noctis looks at both of us with a crazed look, with wide eyes and a smile that won't falter. All of his wounds seem to be healed, and when he steps through the atmosphere, his speed has increased many times over. This is my domain. I have tempered a consciousness far too strong for you to truly grasp. Pure power is all that matters. Make cheap copies of my skills all you want, summon false immortal threads from the void if you can, but you are still cursed with the lifespan of lesser beings. This is but a minor setback, my final test before breaking out of this membrane. He flies past us far faster than either Maria or I can turn. The thin mirror of ice and wave of metallic fire we managed to send through the void collide with each other right where the demon was moments ago. It takes an immense amount of mental strain to move the manifested sword copies around me when they get far out of range, so much so that the explosion of our main sword slashes colliding disrupts the stability of one of my blades. It detonates too, before it can hit a target, the blade copy closest to me. However, I manage to position just in time to nick the forearm of the passing demon as he laughs and mocks us for being too slow. I let my sword copy release all of its pressure upon a simple touch, and watch the demon's entire arm, shoulder, and half of his face be blown apart, sending waves of silver threads out into the void. The damage such a simple attack managed did over 5 times more damage than before. Noctis is blasted backward even further, and I watch his face and limb grow back while other portions of his body grow weaker. A smile creeps onto my face as I watch him twist out of the way before a thin crystalline line of icy mirrors slices through the void where he just was. Residue from the sword slash lingers and touches Noctis back while he runs away, thrusting himself to the furthest part of this sea of consciousness where none of us have traveled yet. Trailing behind him, there are countless silver threads that flicker and fall off of his demonic form, many of them appearing to be stuck in a blue gel residue that was left behind by Maria's slash, as he sheds silver threads to get rid of this poison-like aura. This too makes his overall body less and less filled. I swing next, predicting the position he's escaping to, but the distance becomes too vast. By the time my strikes reach him, they've slowed down to the point where he can weave through them with ease. 2 explosions of red and silver light attempt to catch him off guard, but the shockwaves do not pulse outward with infinite momentum. They merely explode to create bright orbs of energy upon their initial detonation, then are suppressed by the vast sea of consciousness. Once they lose their strong mental link with me, there is still some residual energy that lingers and burns through the outside of his energy form, but there are no large-scale attacks that land. He flies past us again, reaching another portion of the sea, so far that when we turn toward it, it's hard to see much more than a silver shadow on the other side. Red and blue attacks are still sent his way, but they're far too slow to be lethal by the time they arrive near his location. His silver threads may be depleting, but the vast sea of consciousness we swim through still holds a massive amount of this dark purple gel. Although large portions of it are constantly being absorbed into my energy bodies, at this rate, it still feels like an endless sea. Something doesn't add up. Noctis is far too agile for us to easily attack him now, but the longer we chip away at him, the less of a chance he'll have. I quickly turn my interactive mind toward the spectate feed's ember shares within me, and watch the pulses of white and invisible aura he released moments ago all flowing through the void. It shatters far more of the soul array surrounding us, allowing for much larger portions of the real-time battle to glitch through and reflections from ember to sea. Yet, the bubble around this portion of space still holds strong to create the eerie image of us frozen in time. This is not what catches my full focus. Instead, it is where the waves of his soul tie remnants travel, back toward the construct holding the upper and lower realm. Chapter 1056, wisps of ancient soul ties flow through the void. They collide with the outside of the upper realm, stimulating the bent space that protects it from this dark membrane we float in. Many tendrils seep through, carrying system commands and pushing strange fluctuations into action throughout all of the zones of the upper realm, and even touching down into the origin plane. If not for the extremely sturdy primordial tree holding this massive structure together, the fragile construct may have shattered to pieces on the spot. Instead, many of the branches, leaves, and roots attempt to absorb this raw energy that invades it all at once. However, this does not stop the strange phenomena that comes with it to affect all life within it. An intense series of realm waves begin to manifest from the top down, flowing through every single energy pathway they can latch onto. It looks very different from the calm and meticulous realm waves used to control the flow of time for the demon's use in controlling the rise and fall of eras. Instead, this looks like a violent and desperate attack on the origin plane. It looks like a bright white wave of light is washing through the entire galaxy. Once it reaches the very bottom, seeping out of the lower realm, it collides with the fragments of the dead artifact that managed to escape when Marcellus failed in activating his seal, the shattered fragments that appeared frozen in time. Like black lifeless rock in the void, now all light up with potent white light. They sink into the void, now saturated with the invisible weight of an overseer demon's soul tie. They reflect the wave back, pulsing and tearing through space through the lower realm. Since I entered this darkness, it appeared as though the passage of time stopped entirely for everyone in the lower and upper realms, without any active minds perceiving it, without any of our souls probing down to verify its existence. The life inside did not experience time moving by at all. Yet now, countless spectate feeds light up in my mind again. The connection between our isolated existence in the void and the life in the galaxy below has been interlinked once again. However, the images I see are frightening. Even though a mere moment has passed, no longer than a billionth of a second, I start to watch time rapidly speed by in the lower and upper realms. At first it's just a few days, but as the next bright ripple of white aura reflects back and flows through the galaxy, it turns to weeks, then months. There is a fluctuation in both Maria's and my aura when we realize what is happening, and Noctis's laugh from across his pool of consciousness echoes loud in our minds. That's right. It doesn't matter how I succeed. Even if I have to drain more of my remaining soul ties, all I need to do is let the origin plane grow cold, without the fallen one meddling in my affairs. This has given me an even greater opportunity. More waves of red and blue streaks fly through the gel, but they do not hit their mark. Instead, a fast-moving streak of silver light ripples through this ocean. I'm able to perceive him coming my way just fine. There are just heavy constraints holding my movements back in this sea that he controls. Noctis is right in front of me before I can even move my blade upward to block. I feel a sharp pressure across my chest, as deep claw marks tear open my energy forms. Two massive crimson manifested blades are summoned over my shoulders and detonated down toward this demon before he can rip through me again with another claw. His body is half consumed by one of the explosions, thrusting him backward, but Noctis only laughs harder while growing back his body with his remaining silver threads. Take them all, they're useless to me anyway. You want these silver threads? You think that's where my true power comes from? The manic laughter echoing through the gel makes me shiver, as it's getting harder and harder to understand his true motives. I cannot tell if this is a meticulous plan, the tantrum of a childish demon not getting his way, or if he truly does have some hidden power and he is toying with us. I watch a nearly identical exchange take place on the opposite side of the sea. Maria witnessed what happened, so she's far more prepared, but still gets a handful of claws piercing down her arm by the demon's attack before slicing through its elusive silver body and sending it back my way. The wound in my chest has cleaved deep through every single layer of my energy bodies, even tearing through silver thread pathways, interrupting the glitching summons from the void. Yet, as it begins to regenerate on its own, I feel the sea of consciousness around me pouring in at a much faster rate to fill this open wound. Once it closes up, the constant flow diminishes a noticeable amount. As the silver demon comes flying at me with a wide smile and sharpened claws, I'm actually looking forward to getting hit again. Chapter 1057. The sharp claws of this silver demon tear through my side as he comes flying toward me again. This exchange, I do not try to completely dodge. I only avoid letting him hit vital points. Detonating my sword manifestations before he can get too close, I have waited here longer than you two could ever comprehend. I will destroy the only thing you've come here to save, erode the origin plane with time itself before your eyes. Then, let's see who outlasts who in the abyss. This is my territory, it will be impossible for you to ever stop me, laughs echo through the gel, as his silver body grows even thinner, flying away toward Maria, leaving a gaping hole in all of my energy forms. The silver threads left behind do not assimilate with me at all. Instead, they're either completely rejected and spat out into the sea of consciousness around me, or they're collected by my sword's aura that emanates around it. Collecting more and more threads into its raging river in its core, I feel my blade getting heavier in my hands, making it even harder to move at will in this dense environment. Yet the tears in my energy bodies are like cracks opening up in the sea, draining enormous amounts of this dense gel into my very being. It flows through all of my energy pathways, even flowing and attaching to the silver threads that are webbing through my being. The potent rivers of demonic gel collide in my chest, all in one place at the epicenter of my merging cores. Upon collision, it's as though this foreign substance is being torn apart and separated, falling into my demon's core, soul energy core, and purple divine core with the raw energy that suits them. Yet, instantaneously, the pressure from being crushed back together makes far more silver threads unfold from the void and explode outward through my body. Enough is summoned in order to tether to the flowing red gel that expands out from my merging cores. Enormous amounts of this demon's consciousness are devoured and turned into my own power. The claw marks automatically heal, but after being struck twice and comprehending the sensation, I'm able to mentally open up micro tears all over the outside of my body. They do not only open up the top layer to expose my origin body, instead, they tear open through every single layer of my existence. Deep into my own sea of consciousness at the very center of my cores, dense purple gel begins constantly flowing down through my energy form, and when I kick through the void, I feel slightly lighter, and the heavy sword in my grasp is more agile, as the mental lag between Maria and myself catches up to transmit what I've discovered. A flash of blue light shines through the dark sea, while Noctis turns his back on the angel. He's left a deep claw mark through her side, even ripping through one of her wings. He is grinning wide, ear to ear, like it is a victory. Yet I see Maria grinning right back, and an extremely cold, pulsing sensation ripples through this sea. Instead of summoning more cores instantly to create more energy capable of sealing up these horrific wounds, she allows them to ravage her energy bodies further. The heavy claw marks sink deeper into her wings, down into her flesh, seeping through every layer of her being, even fracturing like ice. It creates countless cracks all over her mind, bodies, and soul. It exposes every single energy form and layer of her being to the forces of nature outside. The moment these fractures touch the very center of her being, this is when an icy surge of endless power explodes out. Not only does she recreate soul energy cores and divine cores in the center of her being, but expands her aura outward to create an all-encompassing domain of devouring. It is very similar to the technique she has used in the past. In the green zone of the upper realm, she would let her aura expand outward in an enormous blue orb of light, and every single particle of energy inside it would disappear into her being as nourishment. A massive sphere the size of an entire galaxy is deleted in this purple gel. It flashes bright blue, and inside, every bit of this gel is frozen solid. The demon loses control of its essence in this small area of its sea, as all of the pure ether, primordial aura, vibrations, and purple divine threads are pulled inward toward all of her energy forms to instantly heal the cracks and nourish her soul. The demonic energy left behind is overwhelmed by a sparkling rainbow pressure, as waves of source resin make this energy seemingly disappear. For a moment, the pressure of the sea around Maria is completely lifted. She can move as fast and as freely as we could while floating through the dark membrane before. This brief swiftness is quickly counteracted. As the bright blue sphere fades, the surrounding purple sea comes crashing back in to fill the void. Yet, when Maria is thrust back in, the density of silver threads and royal blue gel flowing through her body is much higher, making her movements much quicker too. The enormous demon's purple sea of consciousness within the soul array starts to shrink. Chapter 1058. My energy body's movements are speeding up, starting to sync back up with the rate of my perception. Don't you see how futile it is? In this sea of power I'd built up using all of the resources from the origin plane, I make the rules. Noctis' crazed yells ring through my ears as he slashes through my body again. The self-made fractures I've created actually absorb the gel much faster and more efficiently. However, there is a massive amount of silver thread residue left behind when he hits me. This is the added benefit. Instead of using my full speed to turn away and most likely receive a less brutal strike, I take the hit. This act needs to go on just a little longer. This is because I see Maria plunging back into the purple sea without any cracks on her energy forms remaining. Inside her bodies, the energies are still being digested and turned into her own concentrated energy. Her process of absorption is far more violent and overwhelming than mine. She just deleted an enormous portion of the sea in an instant, while my method is far more gradual and consistent. I can tell she's not fully adjusted, and does not have an independent method mapped out yet without relying on the demon's claws. Noctis thrusts himself away from me, laughing and yelling into our minds while he slashes through one of Maria's wings again. He even circles back and leaves claw marks through her other side and down one of her legs before narrowly dodging a thin icy sword strike. In the back of my mind, I catch glimpses of Ember watching the wave of ether pulse through the upper and lower realms. Many months have passed again in the mere moment I looked away. It has even begun to speed up faster, rippling around the bent space that holds the construct together. At the same time, the soul ties holding the array around this sea of purple gel are becoming weaker. Its energy is being spread thin. As a result of this, the illusion of time holding still in its center fractures more and more. Far larger reflections of the void that Ember peers through show me a live battle, rather than the false projections of a frozen past. If you spot this narrative on Amazon, know that it has been stolen. Report the violation. The far side of the white bubble that we never pierced, it too begins to break apart in its weakened areas, and the entire sphere-like structure starts losing its shape, bending through the darkness without a clear center of gravity. Inside, there is a pulsing and fluctuating sea of gel, and after every red, blue, and silver flash, the total volume of remaining energy inside seems to be disappearing. Multiple exchanges pass by, tearing open claw marks all over my body. Maria's angelic form shatters over and over, exploding in a blinding blue and rainbow orb of light that deletes the sea around her multiple times. I feel the time-bending forces streaming through the realms below become even sharper and heavier. Like it is pulling time itself along at a faster rate. Years begin to pass as the next exchange of blows pulses through this purple sea. Is that it? All you can do? The creator's legacy given to you by that dragon is nothing but a facade of his own creation. A last ray of hope to stop me from succeeding. He just will not admit he's wrong. The demonic outline that thrusts itself away from me looks almost transparent. The silver threads holding it together are no longer overlapping, or bright to look at. There are more densely packed silver threads in a single one of my fingers than his entire being. The claw mark he just left against my chest would not have left a mark at all if I didn't augment my flesh to let him tear through. Now, wherever I move in this sea, the countless microtears connecting all of my energy bodies soak in the raw energy at an alarming rate. There is a noticeable fluctuation behind me when I press off of space, leaving far less dense areas of the sea behind me. If I'm slow enough, the raw darkness of the membrane even peeks through. Maria's bodies are filled with an endless amount of fractures like glass crushed to bits, and there is a bright blue pulsing aura that flows out from them at a constant rate. It is her own revised method of creating just enough pseudo-cores to heal her inner vital wounds, but not enough to stop the pressure of the sea from breaking down into her cores again to allow for the potent gel to flow in at a constant rate. Anything that this pulsing blue aura touches falls deep into her soul to be digested, leaving a barren trail of darkness behind her that fills back in with gel as she moves away. Once our mental links synchronize again, and Noctis is right between us, we stop this sluggish act and move forward through the sea with speed matching that of the silver demon. Ripples of intense aura flow through the sea, and instantly the laughing mad demon's eyes sharpen with understanding. Another faint ripple of white light comes out from his chest, doing nothing more than a simple probe. Yet, when this faint pulse of a soul tie remnant reaches the outer edges of his mental sea, it's less than half as vast as it was just moments ago. A single icy mirror light comes flying at him from the front, and a wave of dozens of fiery red and silver blades surrounds him from behind. Chapter 1059. The entire center of the purple sea explodes, completely dominated by the red and blue gel radiating off of our attacks when they collide on the silver demon's chest and back. Every last remaining silver thread in its fleeting form detaches and surges through the shockwave of fire and ice. Many of these threads fold back into the void and disappear from sight. Large pockets of space open up all over this sea of consciousness, as its main binding force of gravity just got entirely obliterated and overpowered, even from the outside perspective. Looking through Ember's eyes, there is no longer a uniform spherical blob of gel inside this soul array. It has become a bent, chaotic sea full of holes. Yet, I don't feel any significant shift take place upon impact. there is no system notification, or even rushing memories that flow into my mind. Even the demon's cold eyes don't seem to go away. I can still feel his gaze peering down at us like we're still lesser lifeforms, as I allow a fiery red gel-like aura to flow out of me, attempting to sense why this is the result. A resounding deep voice echoes in my mind again, that was a body and useless burned-out immortal core that I would have had to part with anyway. I cannot be held back by such meaningless things. The purple sea around us trembles, like every remaining part of gel is speaking directly into my mind. It is like we're floating inside its soul. Even the shattered glyphs and strands of soul ties that make up the array surrounding us, it all vibrates and creates invisible strands and pathways of gravity in the void connecting it all together. I feel the rate of my absorption start to decrease, and even start to move in directions unconsciously, like I'm being swept away in a dangerous current. Through the pockets of space our last attacks created, Maria and I latch onto these holes like gravitational hand grips and footsteps to fight against the force pulling everything inward. We both thrust ourselves through space in jagged patterns, escaping from the sea we worked so hard to swim through. Almost instantly, the entire power balance of the battle shifts again. Both of us burst out of the outer edges of the sea, floating in the dark membrane again, but now with only the fractured soul ties to our back. Our energy bodies are filled to the brim with dense, concentrated gel tethered together by silver threads, making our weight in the void far more noticeable. It does not throw us around like leaves in the wind any longer. There is an essence of mutual understanding in the fabric of space, as though now it recognizes us as life that can interact with it. The confusing sense of infinite directions no longer plagues my unenlightened mind. Now, the subtle rhythms in this abyss are quite simple, and there is no longer any way I could get lost in its vastness. Along with this understanding, I begin to comprehend why Noctis is still able to talk and even exert so much control over his surroundings despite the destruction of his physical form, including his merged cores. It is because his soul and will to exist are still far greater than both of ours combined. The pressure that has been weighing on this abyss for over 1 billion years cannot so easily be undone. It is like a deep dent pushed into malleable metal. It is not a simple task to just flatten it out. There are many residual cracks and bends that remember the original form. The longer it has remained, the more resilient the existence of a pressure wishes to continue the same patterns it has always followed. These laws of nature make themselves known all around, as the heavy and sharp pressure of space tries to fill itself in with energy where we float. It has been so accustomed to a dense, raging sea here, but now there is only the absence of space left. In the center of the sea where Noctis disappeared, all of the scattered and fluctuating gel falls inward toward it. It is like a whirlpool of demonic pressure. Small thin streams of soul ties and white glyphs even spiral down into its center as fragments of the arrays around us weaken more and more. When I stare into its center, I still feel the eyes of this ancient demon staring right back. All of the flashing and flickering white glyphs that fall deep into its center begin to make an eerie sense of foreboding emerge, as I watch them begin tethering to some of the densest streams of purple gel. They are extremely simple and incomplete connections, but I comprehend exactly what he's doing. It is the one flaw I found in his use of this energy, the fact that he never bound it with the demonic legacy. The very faint glyphs that were already floating up from the depths of my soul to attempt tethering to my own red gel now flicker with more life. They shine with white and crimson glows, making cylindrical columns of glyphs around every single silver thread that forms in my being. Maria's creator's legacy glyphs start to pulse and flash in reaction to mine. Then, the enormous pool of consciousness begins to consolidate and take the shape of its true form before our eyes. Chapter 1060. Bright white lines of energy flow down into the center of this purple sea. It consists of flawless great ether, fully functional soul tie arrays, and even broken glyphs that are still half-working. Every bit of it contains pieces of this demon's will, tethering to its remaining energy condensed gel to create a truly powerful essence in the void. The theoretical emperor's essence that I hypothesized in my mind while absorbing his memories is starting to take shape before my eyes. All of this incredibly potent gel, that has little to no intelligent force behind it, now starts to imprint on the void behind it with far more pressure. Do you think it would be that easy to defeat me? This is the true power of the demonic legacy, a path even with your skill replication trick, you could never achieve. I watch as waves of constant arrays configured with realm wave-like skill activations begin to constantly trigger. They all pulse inward now, filling the dead purple sea with more and more traces of this white light. It is an intimidating sight, but my comprehension of glyph tethering increases to an exponential degree with every passing moment I watch. The sphere-like creator's legacy that presents itself in the depths of my soul has begun to rotate and show all of its sides. It's like the dark side of the moon revealing intricate details I never could have predicted were there. Every new strand of ether I watch click into place in the void before me, hundreds of times more click into place within my own energy forms. They're all being pulled together in such a uniform manner that it becomes impossible to see any more barriers between them. Each one is filled with so many silver threads, glyphs, and gel made of the energy forms contained in all of my forms. This pressure only forces more silver threads to fold out from the void. It creates an unstoppable chain reaction, as the more threads there are, the more energy can tether to them to create smaller and smaller cylindrical tendons of glyphs. My perception begins to strengthen, so much that even the folds in space where these threads are summoned from begin to make sense. It is not that they are false projections or illusions created under this pressure, they only seem this way when they flicker in and out of existence. It is because they can only exist within this space when tethered to a strong enough center of consciousness. The appearance of threads from thin air is merely the threads being pulled through a portion of space outside this membrane when enough unique pressure in a single focused point is created. The presence of consciousness in the oscillating sea of ether and gel before us has even stronger raw mental pressure. Yet, not a single fold in space lets out a single silver thread into its presence. In fact, I can feel strange concepts and pressures being altered in the surrounding space. It is like an extremely broad, yet infinitely complex, consciousness has changed its mind, affecting the laws around us. It is like the very thought of immortal threads has abandoned the creature in the void. This is a shift I cannot fully comprehend. However, for some reason, once the shift is made, the fluidity of my thoughts becomes far more efficient. Shadow-like imprints and unfinished glyphs coursing through my body are soaked with a surge of warm understanding, and fill in at an extremely rapid rate. The bright red metallic gel that makes up my entire being seeps outward, creating a living fire that seeps through the void, even touching the fractured portions of the soul array behind me. Maria's pressure acts in its own way, freezing the membrane around it like it is a flat surface, spreading equally fast. We begin absorbing the raw flawless great ether that gets in our path as we slowly float backward, breaking out from the array made of shattered satellites. All of the scattered fragments are extremely easy to siphon into our energy pathways, but there are some invisible tendrils latching through the void that cannot be fully consumed. They are dense in space that are pushing far too deep, and are latched to pressures beyond my control. Yet, when I absorb their outer layers, I feel the sharp connection to the center of the demonic sea, and the many fraying connections that pierce down into the lower and upper realms below. The passage of time becomes extremely potent in my mind once again as I latch onto the life force triggering this phenomenon. I feel it tugging on every single one of my links of loyalty, as they are soul ties being overpowered by this ancient being. The years turn into decades passing, but all I can do is attempt to corrode the soul ties slowly and watch. Even positioning myself right between the origin plane and this demonic presence, it's able to move through an underlying fabric of space too deep in the membrane for me to fully block. Noctis' laughter echoes through the void again, and all of the remaining shattered arrays that float around him fall inward. The sea expands and moves like it is being filled with intelligence. I see the imprints of claw marks at its outer bulging edges, like something is trying to break out from inside. Then, I even watch a demonic face emerge, the visuals of eyes peering out from its center flash in my vision. Then all of a sudden legs and arms sprout out from its sides. Areas of the sea densely compacted with ether and glyphs begin forming the semblance of armor, organs, horns, and complex body parts. The entire purple sea morphs into an enormous purple towering demon within the void. The shattered arrays in space begin to float around its being like a pristine, uniform soul array that was never shattered in the first place. This form has no cores, no true vital points, nothing. It is a pure manifestation of Noctis' will, held together by his soul ties frozen in time, tethered to reality with his demonic legacy meant to withstand the relentless passage of time itself. Yet, now it is being used in a desperate battle form that even the void around us does not approve of. With a single move of his hand, I feel the tension on the invisible soul ties in space flowing right through us grow tighter. Time in the origin plane starts to move faster once again, and the sudden lurching sensation from every soul tie down below violently shifts a final variable perfectly into place. Ember watches from afar, with nothing but a serious and calculative expression during this exchange, that is, until he too witnesses the final shift. Two invisible ripples make the membrane vibrate in a frequency extremely hard to perceive, yet, paired with the visual of all of the energy cores in both the mana-based lifeforms' chests merging together to become one, it is clear what has happened. I knew it wouldn't be easy to trigger the addition of another, but did it really have to be that hard? Older systems like this one are never simple. Ember voices through a broad telepathy channel to seemingly nowhere, flowing out through the membrane. Two newly birthed silver immortal cores far off in the void reflect their bright glows back toward his crimson eyes. Chapter 1061, the tension of all of my soul ties being dragged through time, combined with the growing internal pressure to refine and contain all of the bright red metallic gel, becomes so immense that every bottleneck in my mental and physical forms shatters, every single dim glyph shines bright white and tethers to the energy around it, funneling back to the center of my soul and latching onto every single summoned silver thread folding out from the void. All three of my cores are pulled together, completely consolidating the energy within them. There is mana, ether, demonic essence, corruption, high royal vibrations, advanced primordial aura, and the foundation of my very soul uniting as one. Each one refining and compounding on each other to simultaneously elevate every single energy form to a higher realm. The near-infinite bends in space erupt with thousands of times more silver threads than I had moments ago, and the single core in my chest channels and contains the majority of them, while the rest of my body is infused with the overflow. There is no longer any separation between energy forms, only a single substance flows through it, a fiery red gel fully controlled by white glyphs, with silver threads reacting to every mental fluctuation I desire. It is exactly what I envisioned, the Emperor's essence. There are no particles in this dark red metallic liquid. The energy that makes it up is so compressed that it is defying the natural laws of existence. There are millions of particles per Planck length that should be present, and if we were still in the origin plane, the pressure of our existence would simply form a black hole larger than the galaxy itself in order to counteract the unnatural collection of energy and laws in our beings. I watch as Maria's immortal core consolidates, and all of her energy forms merge as one beside me. Even the compacted, duplicated soul energy cores merge and bend inward to fuse with her divine core to trigger the shift. There are infinite layers of ice making up her being, so perfectly consolidated that it is truly only one single body. Not a single notification rings in my mind, but I see flickering white, red, and silver letters forming at the bottom of my buff status, reading, the immortal Emperor's body of initial harmonization. I no longer feel like there is an overwhelming and uncontrollable ocean of energy flowing out of me. Now, I can directly influence and control every last drop of essence. This, in turn, sends ripples of invisible perception through the membrane. Not only do I have full confidence in my movements, but the entirety of this dark space becomes clear in my mentally mapped imagery. The exact laws of direction were unknown to me before because I was still attempting to transcribe them into the rules that govern the lower and upper realms. If I were to fly straight forward in this abyss for long enough, I would end up right back here where I am floating now. The same would happen traveling up or down, or in any known direction. There is a finite amount of space in this membrane, but every single layer of it is folded in on itself to make a directionless void. With enough mental pressure, with a single step, I could appear in any part of the void I desired. Yet, there are still anomalies and other powers at play that are preventing such easy travel. I can clearly see the visceral carvings in this membrane that look like translucent veins, latching onto the folded void. It is the remains of dead soul ties that have fused to the outer walls of this place using pure time and mental energy as a binding agent. The construct that holds the lower and upper realms in the void has its own indentation of soul ties that allow it to sink into the membrane, and these decaying demonic pulses of light are latching onto this similarity. What felt like an impossibly tough tendon of gravity before, with no physical form to grab onto, now looks like it is within my ability to manipulate. It's the first thing I strike my sword down at, severing dozens of these invisible strands, pulling time away from the origin plane. There is an extremely heavy resistance, but with the energy surge from my transformation, I manage to break through. The aftereffects are instant, as I feel the acceleration of time connected to my soul ties slow. Yet, Noctis' yell through the void carries an immense pressure. I feel the countless invisible streams of energy in the membrane pull even tighter to compensate. What is the meaning of this? What have you done? I timed everything perfectly. I even peered over the edge of the membrane to confirm it. The system's last overseer is me. I am the last emperor. This is impossible. An enormous portion of the white glyphs and loose soul ties surrounding this demon form an incredibly dense gauntlet around one of his clawed hands, and he thrusts himself forward through the void at me. I swing upward with my sword again and block his incoming strike, blade to palm. The membrane itself quivers under the pressure, as both of us stop right where we are with equivalent physical force. Yet, I feel no fatigue at all. Rather, wielding this much power energizes every single drop of essence in my being. I glow even brighter silver and red, increasing the strength of my swing the longer we stay locked in place. The demon's eyes, made of purple essence and fragmented ancient glyphs, open wide in fear as the energy surrounding his arm cracks and slowly becomes overwhelmed. An explosion of soul ties and demonic glyphs tears through space next as I follow through with my swing. destroying Noctis' hand and half his arm. He flies backward through the void, while right beside him, an impossibly long wave of mirror-like ice slices through the membrane beside me. It severs over 100 soul ties connected to the origin plane and collides with the retreating demon's head. Another enormous formation of his remaining loose soul ties and glyphs are used to summon a white protective helmet. Yet, it is not enough to block the full power of the incoming strike. Another explosion ripples through the membrane as more of his energy is dispersed, and that demonic head is blown apart, as we both follow after, slicing through soul ties in the void between us. Noctis grows his head and arm back, but the size of his purple body shrinks. His voice trembles with anger and fear as he yells again. Know this must be another lie. Another facade conjured by that dragon. He's trapped me in some kind of illusion. That must be it. The creator's legacy never had additions for energy binding. My legacy was meant to be the enhanced version. How could you possibly be this strong? Chapter 1062. Soul ties sever beneath the pressure of my blade as I fly through the void. Many of the stray fragments of energy explode outward into the void without any connection to grip onto. Unlike the soul ties that manifest in my system, this demon's cannot grow stronger or heal itself when broken. The energy has been artificially sealed. Every tethered glyph around its outer edges is burning through energy to keep an array active. Containing this energy frozen in time the very moment before his death over 1 billion years ago, I'm able to absorb the residual flawless great ether, but the soul ties themselves fade out of existence the moment they're separated from their main power source. Noctis desperately reels in portions of the broken ties to reform with his main body, but even this expends a large amount of energy to recycle and use again. The pool of consciousness even becomes diluted with a far more stagnant and less pure version of his soul ties as some of the outer edges are affected by broken and malfunctioning strands of realm waves. Every strand we break, I can feel the hold on the origin plane weakening. But it also sends intense mental shockwaves through my mind. It is like a perfect map of every single soul tie in this membrane lights up on contact. They are like invisible veins, denting space, latching onto the lives that exist at its center. Every time a strand is severed, I also feel as though the void around us is opening up and becoming even easier to travel through. It is like a mental weight is being lifted with every strand. The more I cut through, the more it feels just like the shift I felt when Noctis expelled his last silver thread. The very laws of the void itself are shifting with every soul tie that is broken. We easily catch up to Noctis again. This time, he is almost defenseless to stop us from shattering his arrays. A thick blade full of fire, and a thin stream of ice obliterate over half of his remaining glyphs in the next exchange. The trails of demonic essence filled with broken glyphs fill the void behind him as he frantically propels himself backward with an even smaller amount of remaining energy. He does not even fully grow back his demonic form. Doing so would cost too much time. Instead, purple claws connected to a terrorized sea of gel begin latching onto the soul ties that web through the void. He forcefully severed many to siphon out just enough energy to propel himself forward, away from our advance, just like the ties broken by the red and blue swords that follow, once snapped. The indentation in the void is still scarred, but there is a shift that ripples through the entire membrane, as though it is telling everything within it that this portion of the void is relieved that it can finally heal. Many soul ties are of different sizes and strengths, and the corresponding ripples through the void feel different with every one of them. It gets to the point where I can start to predict the sensation before it even comes, like the membrane around us has a mind of its own. The more I get accustomed to its intricacies, the more this membrane feels like an enormous semi-dormant artifact of some kind. While slightly conscious, the sensations it triggers still feel like automatic, instinctual responses. Yet, I can't brush off the feeling that each time another ripple flows through the void, the mood of this entire strange space shifts. Noctis' physical energy becomes smaller and smaller, even appearing no taller than a single one of my arms. He's becoming far more desperate, sacrificing an equivalent amount of soul ties that we destroy ourselves while following him. It allows him to dodge the up-close strikes that would carry the most power, but every few swings, a long-range attack still hits, diminishing him further. Another interesting sensation catches my attention as we chase this demon through the void. It is the number of silver threads that are summoned into existence from the void. When long-range attacks carrying large amounts of threads are sent out, and the explosion of energy releases these threads to bend through the membrane, only the exact amount lost are able to be summoned back into my merged immortal core. In certain moments, my entire body feels perfectly synced, like there is no room or no need for any more silver threads to hold it together. I can vaguely feel through the malleable surface of the membrane, after summoning threads over and over again in this state. When my new body feels completely satiated with threads, it is because there are no longer any silver threads remaining behind the veil. It is not only my body that picks up on this sensation. The heavy sword in my grasp does too. The river of silver threads in its core flows with an extremely strong purpose. The constant shifts of laws in the void make its weight in the membrane even heavier, like it is shifting toward a breakthrough of its own. Chapter 1063 What is your true ability? How could you alter the laws of this decaying system? It should have run out of sufficient reserves. This cannot be happening. Noctis' voice becomes scattered and far less confident. It echoes out from every single soul tie nearby. The traces of purple demonic gel and fractured glyphs still linger in the remnants of soul ties left behind in his emergency retreat. Large pathways of pure empty darkness reveal themselves in the void as we fly through. Space bends around our auras, making fragments of energy float toward us like moving magnets that soak up everything they draw near. The demon's mental attention has become entirely focused on running away. So every time we sever a new soul tie connected to the origin plane, there is no longer an external reaction pulling the remaining threads tighter. Centuries have already been pulled from the upper and lower realm in less than a millionth of a second. Yet, now I feel the tension beginning to loosen, and the passage of time slowing back down more and more. It makes the chase for this demon even more vital. In the past, it drained the resources of the lower realm for billions of years, and killed off countless races that did not submit to it throughout various eras. Yet, even seeing these memories, I still felt slightly detached, as I never lived through these time periods myself. Now, I witness Noctis resort to forcefully burning through all of these reserves siphoned from the galaxy, just to survive a little longer, and despite us, there is no point explaining anything to you. You will not believe it, and your true death is near. Any more words would be a waste of time, I reply, imbuing my voice through waves of fire that explode on impact far away. The eruption breaks over 100 thick soul ties in a single blow, forcing the small wisps of purple aura to scatter even further away in random directions. Each fragment of his remaining mind and soul is no bigger than one of my closed fists. Every single attack we land, more power is transferred away from him, and into the fiery and icy immortal emperor's bodies following close behind. Thin mirrors of ice split through space, following the fleeing pulses of purple energy. Whenever these icy waves of light soar through seemingly dead space, the darkness resonates with the rainbow glow within each one of these slashes. There is a subconscious connection that gets stronger the further we chase, allowing Maria to alter the course of her strikes by following the bends in the membrane. This angle soaring through the void has begun affecting the shifting laws around her. An undetectable darkness permeates throughout her entire being, extremely similar to the atmosphere we soar through. Yet, it is not that she is absorbing the membrane itself. It has a very unique aura, certainly a separate awakening with resemblance to this place. It is a similar phenomenon to what is happening with my sword. Ever since the last silver threads were drained from the folds in space, it has been growing heavier, and altering its aura with every soul tie that I slice through or explode. The extremely faint flicker of golden glyphs beneath the silver sea starts to manifest in the depths of my mind every time I swing to eject another wave of fire. There is no adverse reaction that clears my memories away from reading these glyphs. Instead, I can see them with perfect clarity every time the ripples of the membrane flow through. It connects moments in the past to the forefront of my mind every time I swing, showing the moment we unsealed this legacy in the purple zone, to the acceptance of this legacy in the ravine, then to the day I found the cube of metal that named itself Adam in an ancient tomb on the human world. I even see flickering memories of the soul bond one made with Ember the day I met him, inside the artificial prison of a void creeper. This connection of thoughts sends all of the images and feelings of void creepers I've experienced, especially the visions granted in the ravine with Maria, showing us a place in a dark void just like this. At the time, I had no way of perceiving its vastness, but now the connections are starting to become more clear. Another shriek from far away behind a cluster of soul ties brings my attention away from my blade. Do you know what killing me really means? With your lifespans, even after your rebirths, those immortal cores will be burned out within a few thousand years. You've doomed this system. No one will ever escape. His tone sounds even more scared and uncertain than before. In just a few swings, thousands of soul ties are obliterated, clearing out almost half of the membrane, returning it to untouched pure darkness. Noctis breaks off into countless more strands, not even attempting to maintain his demonic form any longer. Each droplet of his purple mental sea, and the small pockets of glyphs, are no larger than a single one of my fingernails. Still, his voice echoes out again. You must stop. Do not fall for this dragon's lies. I admit my defeat. Allow me to live and we can share the system. I won't ever lay a finger on either of you again. I'll quietly remain in a small pocket of the membrane. Just think about what you're doing, no reply follows. There are only demonic screams and many ripples of soul ties snapping one by one throughout the void. Chapter 1064, I can be your voice of wisdom, no one else has lived in the membrane as long as me. Allow me a chance, I can teach you the demonic legacy. I can give you true eternal life. Desperate screams cry out as thousands of soul ties snap beneath every sword strike. The growing red and blue immortal bodies fill up larger portions of the void. Some of the screams that come from the demon become fragmented, like he is talking over himself. Many of the ancient arrays that were imbued with realm waves explode on their own when insufficient energy remains in their glyphs. It releases the telepathy signals moving through them at varied, unpredictable rates, making for extremely fast and slow messages to hit us from all sides. The smaller the pockets of purple energy in the soul ties become, the harder it is to understand what Noctis is trying to say. The underlying tone only becomes more terrified and filled with resentment. He is not even trying to hide his mental fluctuations. Almost every word he speaks can easily be dissected as lies. This is nothing but a shameless attempt to cling onto life a little longer. You do not understand. I put these soul ties in place to solidify the laws of this system. You'll be at the whims of an even greater power if you do this. Just leave a few intact, I'll hold the membrane together. I'll do anything, state your price. The intense pull on the origin plane goes almost completely slack. Quickly, the passing centuries slow down to just a few years, then settle at only a few days that pass in between every soul tie we manage to sever. Massive open areas of darkness, untouched by any other mental prowess, finally become present in the membrane again. This results in much easier and faster travel speeds. Space does not manifest in a natural, linear sense. Instead, the distance between 2 points is only as far as the resistance between them. Before, this membrane was crowded with many oppressive, conflicting auras. It made it increasingly difficult to push through the noise. Now, with empty pockets of void, space between 2 points can be seamlessly ignored. It is almost like instant teleportation. With no stronger mental observers present in a void step, it is simple to travel an infinite distance until met with resistance, as there is no one else perceiving the passage of time to stop us. This phenomenon makes stepping through the void easier and easier, as we seemingly appear out of nowhere, arriving in front of the strongest collections of remaining soul ties to release devastating attacks. The ripples of invisible aura that permeate through the void after each soul tie is snapped become more frequent and more intense. It is no physical ripple I can see, nor actual energy that can be absorbed. Instead, it is like sensing a person's feelings. I continuously get fluctuations popping up in my instincts. This is something that is rarely triggered, usually only during extremely dire life and death battles or intimate moments, yet, it is happening over and over all around me. The empty space we void step through seems to amplify its intensity. Without so many web-like veins of soul ties interrupting the energy flow, now these bends in the void become stronger as they float through empty space. It is almost like the entire membrane is having miniature epiphanies over and over again. The compounding ripples seem to learn and grow from the ones before, and as I perceive them, I too start to understand it better. Just leave a few clusters in the furthest corner away from the origin plane. That's all I need. Come on, you're not actually going to kill me. I'm a fellow soul-bound entity to the fallen one. I have knowledge no one else in this system can tell you. I'll serve you. I'll do whatever you humans want. Just leave me one cluster, no, just leave me one soul tie, a remnant is all I need. Please, isn't mercy one of the lesser race's main traits? I beg you. Noctis' voice, rambling on without any responses, becomes duller and more defeated the further into the void we plunder. The oscillating white wave of energy moving through the lower and upper realms becomes slower and slower until the passage of time reverts back to its natural rate. The specks of the fractured demonic artifact below the origin plane stop glowing white and fizzle out, back to its dormant black state, almost blending in with the void. A bright consecutive wave of fire and icy slashes targets every last soul tie in the deepest pockets of this membrane. They are the easiest to break through, as our enemy's strength has reached its lowest point, and our power is nearing its peak. Yet, despite their ease in snapping like old rubber bands, the invisible shockwaves that begin rippling and bouncing throughout the void afterward are the strongest ones yet. There is an eerie silence that follows once the membrane becomes entirely dark once again. It may be quiet, but all of my senses are on high alert, even more strained than when we were in the midst of battle. This is because the remaining untouchable waves that ripple and change the very laws of reality have begun bouncing off each other and growing stronger within this darkness at an exponential rate now that there is no resistance stopping it. Chapter 1065, the entire membrane becomes filled with strong waves of laws that change their frequency every time they bounce off each other. Remnants of Noctis power are fully integrating into my being. I feel large internal shifts taking place in the greater mechanisms of the system, but my perception has become too advanced to get the pleasure of viewing it all at once. There are level up sounds, and many other text boxes triggering in the back of my mind that would normally be instantaneous, but now it will take far longer than expected for all of these options to manifest, that is, a long time relative to the events I'm currently focused on, while using my normal energy senses. This void has been plunged into total silence. Yet, every drop of Emperor's essence flowing through my body vibrates and reacts to the extremely strong instinctual pressure colliding with my consciousness. Every collision feels like more layers of shielding are being shaken off of my mind, just like the waves themselves that grow stronger. An abundance of epiphanies are triggered within my own mental sea. It synchronizes my thoughts to the very essence of the void around me. I become increasingly sharp and aware of the other pressures in the membrane that are interacting with these waves as well. Other than myself, there seem to be 5 other dense energy signatures that are being elevated from the surrounding waves. The first undeniable shift is the sword in my grasp. Its physical makeup has become so heavy that it is like another full living entity rests before me in the void. The material that makes up its handle and blade has become compacted into a gel-like state made from its own essence. The crimson advanced primordial aura, its unique vibrations, and the countless soul swords and energy that it has devoured. More and more flickering golden glyphs appear inside the microscopic pathways that hold this blade together. Even the river of silver threads that flows through its core begins to act differently, instead of flowing at a constant rate as it's been doing since the moment a single thread entered its body. Now the silver threads have begun seeping into the very fabric of the sword. An invisible and intangible mechanism is shifted closer and closer into place with every wave of laws in the void that hits it. The second energy signature I feel reacting to these waves is Maria. With no more resistance in the void between us, our minds have regained their perfect harmony without any lag. I can feel her consciousness being elevated and changed at the same rate that mine is, yet, the third entity I feel reacting to this strange force is quite unexpected. It is far more elusive than the other sources of change in the void, because it feels like it is made of the same exact dark essence. This material is being summoned out of thin air, and it is occurring inside Maria's body. It is not being directly summoned from any one specific place, as the energy is so compact. Yet, it feels as though it is a side effect of large amounts of source resin being compacted and combined with her soul. The sparkling, colorless, mirror-like material has perfectly bonded with her mana stores and ether pools, binding with the underlying primordial aura and vibrations. Yet, it has a layer of complexity that overpowers even silver threads when it is being bent into certain areas of space and stress-tested to the extent that it is now. Its true purpose is finally coming to light. The most potent points of this darkness are unfolding in her immortal core. Blade, wings, and halo. Yet, it is like it is all part of the same being, interconnected just as tightly as the soul bond between myself and my sword is. The emerging darkness may have a lingering consciousness of its own, but it is solely controlled by Maria. The fourth force that reacts to these rippling laws is the thin film surrounding the construct that holds the upper realm above the origin plane. No physical damage is being done. In fact, the passage of time in the origin plane has completely synced back up to the passage of time in the membrane. However, with every collision of these waves of laws that pass through and collide with this bent film of space, its functions are being slightly altered. It is like the keys and regulations to interact with its makeup are being bent and altered. They are corresponding with the changes happening in my own mind, making the entire construct more familiar on an instinctual level with every passing moment. With my current processing speed, however, time has basically come to a halt. The events taking place right now are all happening in fractions of time that not even the strongest purple cord races can perceive passing, though. There is one entity that watches everything take place with a satisfied expression on his face. An enormous golden dragon stares at us through the void. His presence is still veiled in a sense of mystery, as throughout the entire battle with Noctis. He was always looming above us. Yet, even when we cut through every soul tie, void stepping through every single bend in space through the membrane, Ember never got in our way. Right now, I can sense exactly where he is in the membrane. Even looking at the vibrant golden threads on the outside of his body does not pose any mental threat to me. I can study them without any pressure, yet peering too deep still gives off an eerie sensation. one that feels similar to the very changes and laws altering my intuition. He is the fifth disturbance other than myself in the membrane that soaks up these waves. However, they pass through him with less effort than the other four pressures in the void. The ripples are hardly altered when they leave his presence. They do not experience epiphanies as potent as the ones that interact within myself or Maria. Other than the extremely subtle fluctuations, it's almost like the space he takes up is no different than the membrane itself. Both of his enormous wings flap slowly, and the golden cord dragon floats downward in the void our way. Chapter 1066. Even as Ember moves through the void, all of the bends in space that form around him are far different than ours. It is as though he is simultaneously weightless and infinitely heavy. His presence pierces through the fabric of the membrane, as there are portions of his being that sink far too deep into this darkness for me to properly see. Yet, the space behind him is left untouched, as though no mental pressure has ever touched it. The more waves of laws that collide with my mind, the more my perspective is altered. I begin to realize these waves of untraceable energy do not affect him, because it appears he's been molded by these waves many times before. Some of the older, more refined laws have already rippled through me a number of times. At first, the potency of theirs and mine in return only grew stronger. Brand new entities interacting and imparting vast amounts of compacted information leads to extremely fast growth, yet, eventually all of this excited energy finds a less chaotic rhythm. Many of the most violent waves in space collide and merge with others. Some of the more stagnant waves even break off into multiple pieces and become altered to become something new entirely. There are no real visuals to see, but I begin to feel less extreme changes in my instincts. My mental state is adjusting, and I can feel that the other conscious entities in the membrane have begun to adjust as well. Everything seems exactly the same. In fact, the waves of energy don't even seem to be slowing down. Instead, they are just blending into the background of my senses. The waves of changing laws are still potent and present around me. It is just that my mind is starting to become just as strong. I can perceive the absence of these fluctuations in dead portions of the void. This also heightens my awareness for the other entities that have also been enlightened and adjusted to this wavelength. Maria's form becomes far more elusive, mimicking the characteristics I see as Ember descends. This content has been unlawfully taken from Royal Road. Report any instances of this story if found elsewhere. Even my own body and sword, they have become far more important in the grand scheme of the membrane, exerting far more pressure on the space around me. Yet, without purposefully evoking my perception of these waves, I can slip away into the darkness to become invisible and formless too. Even the barrier construct around the origin plane, it has undergone changes, synchronizing it with the monumental shift that has occurred. Now, it has become increasingly daunting to attempt breaking out from its barrier. Just at a glance, I can tell if this were the ceiling of the upper realm that I had to tear through to break out of the purple zone, it would have been impossible to do so. There are still subtle fluctuations visible in the barrier. Maria, and myself, but they are virtually non-existent compared to the violent shifts that were just occurring moments ago. As Ember flaps his wings for a final time and stops right before us, I can feel the immense maturity in his comprehension of these waves. It isn't that he subdued them quickly, it is that at the core of his being, a majority of his consciousness has already interacted with these waves. Only a tiny fraction of new information had to be shared and adapted to assimilate with this shift. It appears I was not wrong. The human race truly is the key to this system's reset. His crimson eyes peer through the void into both of our minds and souls. It feels like there is nothing at all I can hide. Intense ripples of laws burst out from his gaze, washing through every drop of Emperor's essence, silver thread, and soul tie I have. Oh yes, it feels like a cold bucket of water is being poured through my entire being, bringing a sense of shock at first, but intense clarity and awareness after. I must thank you for cleaning up my mess, even though there were many self-inflicted restrictions along the way. Fortunately, you've managed to lift another seal. Yet, nearly at the cost of what humans covet the most, I can feel his gaze flowing through us, and peering down into the upper and lower realms that have succumbed to hundreds of years of forced realmwave-induced time passage. There are extremely golden glyphs floating in his eyes, so clear that I can even recognize the usage and symbols for some of them. They are catalyst glyphs that are embedded deep within the Creator's legacy. Many I can see in their lesser forms glowing within my soul, and others with identical makeups in the very core of my blade. You have become strong enough. It is time you begin to see everything for what it truly is. Many more golden glyphs start floating up from the depths of his soul to imprint on the inside of his eyes, and at the same time, I feel the slow mechanisms of the system finally trigger the effects of the notifications that have been ringing in my inner ear since the last soul tie snapped. Chapter 1067, over 2 million level up notifications are already registered in my mind, and the longer we float within the void, the more system mechanisms churn in the depths of my consciousness. These near infinitely small glyphs do not seem to work under the same rules that I assumed they did. Instead, the moving parts one managed to peer into while still in the purple zone of the upper realm were merely the outer layer. It is the complex mechanism completely made of ether and mana. I can still see this completed layer in my mind now, but it is very simple, and there is no need to concentrate on it any further. The inner intricate mechanisms that are being laid bare before me now are almost entirely made of the invisible laws that ripple through this void. If I focus hard enough on certain areas, I can tell that the shapes they make up to look like glyphs are merely a facade. It is only a mental illusion, repurposing what my newly enlightened mind can handle. If there were no common language within these energy fields, it would all be complete gibberish. Once these manifestations are digested further, they twist and ripple into even more complex forms, continuously pushing my mind to the limits of its comprehension to understand what is really in front of me. I watch in real time as the laws of reality are shifting and interacting with the outer layer of the system. Each significant shift coincides with a single level up notification and the corresponding domino effect of the seals that are unlocked throughout my body. Every single one constantly releases more availability to the raw power of the void in extremely complex ways. One of the extremely large shifts lights up a massive silver, white, and purple panel in my mind. It is the activation of my innate primordial grade absorption skill, granting me true access to the primordial grade, space-time manipulation, skill on Noctis status. I mentally press, yes, but this is the first time I get to watch the infinite void of laws opening up and triggering mana and ether-based seals to move away. I can feel and see the intricate outline of my unique skill and instinctually feel a very profound resonance flowing through me once the transfer is finished. Unlike the level up notifications, which are a one-way transaction of seals opening up to allow me to act upon preset laws, a very strange feeling washes through me, like I've altered the dark pool beneath the system. The feeling fades away as more notifications continue to trigger. Where there was a pseudo skill before, now I watch the true skill that produces realm waves appear on my status. The intrinsic understandings of its activation are ingrained in my being, and I begin to see that the copies I was creating were truly just that. They were shells of the real thing. I was replicating the size, shape, and function of the glyphs that make up the outer layer of the system. They were not directly linked to any of the actual system's laws. Prolonged viewing into this inner layer of the system begins to illuminate many new things. I can start to see the patterns of laws bending and forming together, and can predict exactly when new notifications are going to trigger next. The more complex the shift, the longer it takes for every glyph to spin and activate in the right place. There are multiple underlying system commands that are lagging behind and waiting to trigger. One is linked directly to my blade. It feels as though it is in the process of leveling up again, but I cannot predict the intricate details. They're far too deep in the abyss of complexity. Though, there is another notification that is closer to the surface. This is a sign that it will manifest itself into reality much sooner. It feels just as complex and profound, but shares far more patterns that my mind can easily comprehend. It feels strongly connected to my soul and an immense number of soul ties. It is even linked to the constructs surrounding the origin plane. Every passing moment connects the outer layers of the system to this construct with greater strength, as though an absurdly complex notification is about to trigger. Its outline looks like the text boxes that appear when a new milestone of the Rising Emperor's domain is met. The last time this buff was triggered in the upper realm, I claimed access to the rights to borrow 95% of the power from any one of my links of loyalty. Now, as my focus deepens, I can watch the inner mechanisms shift upward. My consciousness manifests the many waves of laws connecting to the system as numbers I can comprehend, rising upward to 96%, 97%, 98%, and even 99% as it rises higher and higher to begin turning every single glyph in the depths of my soul. Not only is this system shift affecting me, but I can feel the connections to the exact same system shifting throughout every living being in the upper and lower realm. Chapter 1068, waves of laws float upward to the surface of the system like a tsunami, colliding all at once and shifting the gears of the physical system. Every command that was in the process of forming clicks into place and unseals to become reality. The full shimmering notification I become very familiar with appears at the forefront of my mind. Underscore 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 underscore. Congratulations. The Emperor's domain milestone reached, 1/1 galaxy claimed, new perk unlocked, the Immortal Emperor returns, info, the Immortal Emperor has gained access to the laws of the Origin Plane Interface, the Worldwide Connectivity System, has been updated and integrated into new system functions. The Immortal Emperor may now borrow an additional 5% of all base stat points and mana control efficiency from all subordinates under the allegiance of the Rising Emperor, members affected by this perk are not required to be within range of the Rising Emperor's domain. This buff stacks with the Galactic Reach perk, Galactic Advance perk, Galactic Player perk, Galactic Footprint perk, A Light in the Darkness perk, Path to Domination perk, Authority Among Worlds perk, Ruler of Worlds perk, World Collector perk, World Domination perk, Imperial Reach perk, Expansion perk, Dominance perk, Authority perk, Power Holder perk, and Ruler's Gaze perk if used simultaneously. Underscore 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 underscore. Each link tethers my Immortal Emperor's body to everything around me. A profound ripple makes its course through space outward with me as its center. The entire lower and upper realm become one with my consciousness. All of the thoughts and actions of those within it become so simple and obvious. Whether it is common races diving into dungeons to enhance their levels, or divine core holders in the upper realm cultivating within the legacy domains, it is as though I can feel their every thought and even comprehend the paths and memories in the earlier stages of their lives to easily predict their next moves. Every living being's instincts and worldviews are laid bare like they are my own. Even inanimate objects, like grains of sand from billions of worlds, or particles of mana floating through deep space, I can predict what will happen within every instance. Stolen content warning: this content belongs on Royal Road. Report any occurrences. Not only can I comprehend everything, but this system shift has granted me another 5% of energy borrowing control over every living being connected to the system. That raises my total control to 100%. The countless invisible soul ties are just brushing the surface of the connections. Within every being, there is a complex gate connecting their consciousness to the system, and only I hold the ultimate key within the laws truly floating beneath it all. With a simple thought, I can siphon all of the energy from this system into myself, leaving the entire origin plane filled with powerless mortals unable to cast a single skill. This is what it feels like to become an Immortal Emperor. There are two more interesting updates within this milestone other than the complete control over stat borrowing. The first is the ability to bend and shift the very laws of the origin plane. I can feel all of the bottlenecks present in the eyes of the living I peer through, such as the first step into mana control around level 300, and the ability to begin utilizing divine threads properly around level 700. There are more rigid bottlenecks that appear within the inner system formations, classified as rank ups, at level 500, 1000, 10,000, 100,000, and 1 million. They are all heavily detailed and correspond with the availability of resources within current eras and even the class rank of worlds. There are minor but clear differences in bottleneck difficulties on 5th class worlds versus 1st or noble grade worlds. They are not set in stone either. Depending on the system user's life experiences and interaction with other system users, the quality of rewards of every rank change. I always believed this was the case, but I'm finally seeing the truth before my eyes. Just as easily as I could drain the system of its power, I can also change these rules. Manipulating the level at which system users rank up is possible, and even granting skills or raw stats instead of buffs is an option. The more I explore these commands, the more I realize I can change it in far more ways than just these simple shifts. I turn my attention away from the intricate details of the system and toward the larger broad functions. Like the update to the worldwide connectivity system, quickly, all of the admins, knights, commanders, and generals appear in my mind. At the rate I process everything, the only one that notices my mental presence is Maria beside me in the void. The sensation of my consciousness stepping back from the infinite sea of laws washes through me, and her presence enters the system. I'm witnessing the transfer of power as I mentally probe and grant access to her allotted 25% availability of stats. The other high-ranking members of the system appear dormant because their minds haven't caught up to my probing yet, but I can feel their mental claims on smaller percents of the system as long as I continue granting them access. This is the greatest moment of mental clarity I've ever experienced, and reality around me is only becoming more and more clear. Less than a millionth of a second has passed, as before me the golden glyphs in Ember's eyes continue to turn and shake me out of my mundane existence. The next wave of laws floating upward and triggering in the depths of my mind are an extremely large packet of memories that have been sealed away inside me by golden threads in the past. Chapter 1069, The Memories that appear in my mind don't flow in like they are new. Instead, I am hit with consecutive epiphanies, like I'm remembering something I always knew but somehow forgot. The almost hypnotic spinning golden glyphs in Ember's eyes perfectly attune themselves to the growing golden glyphs in my sword. The resonance loosens shackles all throughout my consciousness to shift into place. Visuals of the past grow more and more clear, floating to the forefront of my mind. Most recently, vast amounts of foreign knowledge have been poured into my mind from my blade, yet, every time I tried to look deeper into their inner secrets, illusions and mental locks held me back. Now, I see the memories with perfect clarity. It's as though I'm living through them now, and able to perceive the energy flows within each memory as though it's right before me. There is no longer a black and red fog of mystery around the wielder of this soul weapon, and I get to see all of the past races bound to this artifact. Considering the countless diverse races I've witnessed in these passing memories as the wielder of this weapon planet hops and ventures through upper realms, it is quite unexpected to see that almost every wielder has a similarity to myself. They are not all human, but none are far from it. Every single one of them is humanoid to a degree, and the most prominent common factor is that their lifespans are near the lowest tier in the galaxies they reside in. Some look slightly more elven in nature, with pure white skin and no organs at all. Others have dark black skin, with no hair, and deep blue eyes. There are races that look like they're made of pure emeralds, crystalline from head to toe. The variations are immense, but there is always a similarity, whether it is the color of their hair, or the posture of their stances in battle, even the gleam in their eyes. The longer I watch, the more information I begin to unravel. My perception of the laws has become extremely acute, and I can feel that the resonance between their wielders and reality around them is all the same. It's as though I'm looking at myself, the very essence of my soul, navigating countless strange worlds without the memories that I have now. When I perceive the soul weapon in my grasp and all of these memories, it is very different. There is no change at all in its aura. It gives off the exact same energy waves as the current blade in my hand. While the wielders all appear to be iterations of the same soul, this weapon seems to truly be the same exact artifact. The deeper I look, all of the golden shadows that were deleted from the background of my memories begin resurfacing. I watch a tiny red and black dragon soul bond with the soul weapon wielder over and over again. In some of the memories, this dragon has already grown up, and the weapon meets its wielder much later. In others, the artifact is already in the hand of the wielder. Demons are slain all throughout foreign galaxies that look nothing like the one I come from, and along the way, this dragon grows and sheds its restrictions, finally blooming to become the same exact crimsonite golden dragon that dwarfs myself and Maria in this membrane. In every memory, I witnessed the wisdom imparted from this dragon to its humanoid companion over and over again. The words and explanations he gives are always vague, and never enough to alter the natural growth of the wielder. It looks so simple from the outside looking in, as now I see in this dragon's eyes far more insight than I ever got from listening to him in the past. Some of the final waves of laws that were still vibrating around the edges of my immortal emperor's body settle, as even now, I've managed to absorb insight from these words. Everything he has ever said, it's as though he knew I would view them right now. These inner shifts loosen even more system glyphs, allowing for the remaining memories I absorbed from Noctis to fully show themselves. Not only do I relive his journey from the lower realm to his demise in the membrane, but this aligns with every single time this amplifier has found itself in this position before. I witnessed the radiant golden dragon clawing through membranes just like this one, and humanoid soul weapon wielders slicing through the blackened sky. Some of them have familiar figures in the background, like bright blue angels, warm green trees, dark warriors, light elven silhouettes, and many more. Yet, I look past all of it, focusing solely on what is beyond this abyss. Chapter 1070. Many of these tears that rip through the void are imbued with unique variations of laws not in other memories. However, collectively, they are all present in the ripples I absorbed and assimilated within the present day. I begin subconsciously sorting through the countless memories, and watch the change in both Ember's aura and the sword within my hand throughout their lives. With every new interaction, they build upon each other. While it seems every other living being is a blank canvas with no inherent memories of the laws. Even the echoes of souls I feel within the wielder, or those that look like shadows of Maria, or Abby, or many other high-ranking system users. None of them retain this essence beyond the system like the Golden Dragon and Soul Artifact do. The more I focus on this discovery, the more patterns I see. Then, begin moving all of these memories into a mental grid and placing them in chronological order. At first, many memories seem to be missing, like there are large chunks of iterations that do not align. Yet, entirely new packets of information come floating up from the void to fill the gaps. This comes with an even more daunting realization. It is the fact that there are far too many memories for me to count. This is not a matter of billions, or trillions, or even 10 digits higher. It is continuously expanding at an exponential rate. Whenever I believe I've finally grasped the full number of memories encompassed in this legacy, a minuscule gap within two memories opens up to release a wave of more images than every past memory inherited combined. It feels like there is no end. Yet with every new discovery, I feel as though my mind unlocks new capabilities of perception to process and understand more. This experience of looking deeper and deeper is granting me a glimpse into the true meaning of infinity. At the same time, I watch the membrane of countless systems torn open to reveal the universe outside. Some of them open up to reveal a vast expanse, with hundreds of billions of galaxies outside holding life of their own. Others are torn open to reveal vast realms, with no stars or planets at all. Just a single plane of existence. Many reveal chaotic energy of newly birthed universes that have not yet expanded. The membrane holding all of the life inside was the only thing protecting them. There are even memories of gigantic membranes holding multiple galaxies inside them, revealing enormous galaxy-sized monsters dwelling beyond, taking bites out of superclusters and continuing eternal wars. Some memories even consist of races made purely of the stars, and live within voids without direction from the day they are born. The laws of nature do not act the same as they do now. There are many laws that have not yet been introduced and compounded yet. Like in current times, the further back I peer into the past, the more abstract and unpredictable some of the realities within and outside the membrane become. At first, I believed that beyond this membrane, there would be others within this universe. If there is a framework for the use of energy within one galaxy, there must be others beyond. Yet, there are far too many memories bursting into my consciousness for this to all be within one universe. My vision returns to the current reality, and the golden glyphs floating up from Ember's soul have almost entirely covered his eyes. There is hardly any crimson remaining. There are even symbols of gold shining through the silver sea in my blade as the dragon's voice echoes into my mind again. We have been in this state many times before, but I must say, this was one of the hardest cycles. Would you like to do the honors? This wave of telepathy pulses with another sharp splash of laws, breaking me out even further from what feels like a mental haze I didn't even know was limiting me. I can feel the direction Ember's gaze is looking, and it is one that I have not yet tried to pierce through yet. The moment I follow the pathways of thought he's laid out for me, everything flows extremely smooth with no resistance. Instantly, my perception penetrates deep into the folds of the void, where there were once excess stores of silver threads. Now my raw aura flows right through, and even seeps further. New tiny pockets of space start to appear in my mind, as I start to feel the outside layer of the membrane in its entirety. Chapter 1071. What is the reason for all of this? Why do you keep seeking out this soul to complete this cycle? What do you stand to gain? I reply back through the void, staring into Ember's now golden eyes. His golden body in the void becomes more and more familiar with every passing moment. The corners of his grin turn up, the posture of his wings, even the subtle fluctuations of laws that still interact with his being. They're all becoming second nature as I watch memories resurface showing how many of these habits were built. Yet, the actual mechanism for how this cycle continues still eludes me. As my instincts seep further into the outer edges of the membrane, I'm hoping for more clues or clarity. However, the many pockets of space I start to uncover only lead to dead ends. It is as though my mind is pouring into open space that is far more empty than the void we're currently floating in. It is not as simple as trivial gains and losses. It is a responsibility to walk the path of a supreme. I've heard this title being used before many times from the demons and dragons of higher ranks. Even sifting through all of my compounding memories, none of them illuminate its true meaning. The only proof I have is the existence of the golden threads before me. What is a supreme? What exactly is it you need me to do? The only ones that seem to live on are you, and this blade. If anything, we're just pawns in your game. What if Noctis was right? The rate of golden glyphs rising to the top of Ember's eyes slows, and the remaining crimson light completely vanishes. He laughs, and another pulse of mind-cleansing laws wash through me. This is always my favorite part. I hate it in the moment, but have grown to enjoy it after. You and I truly are stubborn ones, aren't we, ooh-wee? What do you mean we? I may be soul-bound to you, but I want answers. I don't want to be another lifeless soul in your grand game. I want to remember. If you want help with whatever lies beyond this membrane, I want to become a supreme. I retract all of my mental prowess back from exploring and fortify it within my immortal body. I raise my blade and prepare to drain the entire origin plane of its system power. Ember's smile widens even more, showing almost every single one of his teeth. There is no need to fight me now, especially so close to the origin plane. Wouldn't you at least like to meet with the mortals you will leave behind one more time? I look away from the enormous dragon in the abyss, and down toward the lower and upper realm that have been thrust hundreds of years into the future in order to kill one demon, even without any use of spectate feeds, or my enhanced senses through the waves of laws. The orb of life in the center of this calm membrane shines bright. It looks like an enormous green tree full of stars. I turn back to Ember once more, then to Maria by my side. His voice rings through the void to answer my thoughts before I even pose the question. Maria must leave with us too. She is as important to the great cycle as you are, though, for reasons you will soon understand, she cannot ascend to become a supreme. My eyes widen, and tremors of new laws start pulsing out of me, disrupting the void. These fluctuations even react with Ember's elusive form, as though he's never felt them before, yet, he continues speaking in a calm tone, looking down at the origin plane with an intriguing gaze. You have inherited the Creator's legacy. No matter what you decide, your actions are not wrong. You may live out your remaining years in the origin plane, there is nothing stopping you. I will wait for your decision, as I have since the birth of this realm. It makes no difference. Chapter 1072, within a fraction of a second of my perceived time, I've experienced many breakthroughs and perspective morphing epiphanies. The battle through the membrane has spanned thousands of galaxy lengths through the void, and I've been absorbing memories from a near infinite number of past lives. My mental processing power has grown with this information overload, making my immortal emperor's mind capable of assimilating such an extreme input of data. Yet, there is still a small emotional human portion of my mind that hasn't fully accepted it. I look away from the eyes of the immortal golden dragon, multiple times larger than the galaxy, and back toward the origin plane. While I still don't have all the answers to what is beyond this membrane, and why Ember desires me to leave, there is one thing I know for sure: in the upper and lower realms, there are no more enemies. When my attention shifts away, I begin to fully explore deep. Within the construct, the purple zone is where I probe first, feeling the presence of far more purple cores present than when I left it. All of the secretive and scattered arrays of the outer settlements have been completely altered and rebuilt. There are no longer forbidden domains sectioned off by the demons, and the flow of pure, high-quality ether and purple threads in the air is constant throughout the entire zone. Every one of the ancient primordial trees resonates with hundreds of times more pressure than they did centuries ago when I last viewed them. However, it is not a hostile aura at all. Instead, it syncs with the Emperor's links of loyalty and enhances the rate of energy control and enlightenment. These trees resonate and slowly pulse in sync with the enormous tree that grows out from the center of the zone. Each branch grows all the way up to the sky, curling over like a green shadow above the entire zone. There are fast travel pathways within each branch, making direct transport routes downward to other zones. Each leaf has entire new domains built upon them, with training rooms, trade centers, and even luxury housing for new influential races that have made a name for themselves in this new budding era. Surrounding the base of the tree, all of the ritual domains store legacies for any and every race that enters. New settlements have been built around these structures, and manually built travel routes through the neutral zones have slowly connected this inner sanctum to the outer settlements. In the blue and cyan zones below, there is no formal barrier between them. There is only an extremely strong aura of the last blue wyvern that sleeps between these two zones. Towering skyscrapers that are trillions of kilometers high are built within this middle section of the upper realm. Many of them are storage centers for pure energy that races, businesses, or clans can rent to preserve their lineage for the future. There are entire buildings used solely for transitioning between zones. One can pay a set fee to slowly acclimate their bodies, minds, and cores from the lowest level of the cyan zone up to prepare for a life within the purple zone. Of course, there are battle, entertainment, and trading towers, large enough to fit entire citadels from the old green zone within a single floor of one of these buildings. White, blue, and cyan clouds lightly drift through the atmosphere outside. Through the green tint of the trunk of the primordial tree they exist in, many pure white pathways exist between these towers, allowing citizens to fast travel through the city, or to other zones. There is a highly regulated dark zone between this major city and the green zone below. It is where the ravine used to exist. Many portions of this landscape are sealed off by roots filled with primordial aura far too strong for anyone within the current construct to break through. This is where many of the ancient tombs and originator artifacts are kept. Some have been excavated from the lower realm and sealed here, while others are pedestals and caves filled with artifacts that demons left behind billions of years ago. There are no public transport routes that stop within the ravine. All of the fast travel pathways flow right through, leading down to the green zone of the upper realm. Chapter 1073. In the green zone, the main citadels still stand as they once did. However, the power dynamics of this zone are very different than they were before, thanks to the legacy provided by Abby at the peak of the primordial tree, only available to high-ranking system users and authorized individuals for a high price. There are no longer limits to the core strength one holds and the zones they may travel to. Unbreakable barriers created by the Dryad's legacy can be worn, concealing one's true aura throughout any zone they wish to travel. Within the green zone, there are currently many purple cord leaders that keep the peace, some of which are Ari and Raven who rule over the Mensa Citadel. Torvak and Asik continue their reign over Ellipsia. The Grand Citadel is watched over by Ava, Zashin, and a white griffin. All of these lords watch over this zone, yet rarely interfere with its daily functions. After all, the green zone is a buffer zone between the lower and upper realms. It has gone through an enormous transformation, too. There are many skyscrapers built from the floor of the zone that tower through the green clouds between the citadels. Even the old untouched domain where the corrupted Wyvern Citadel once was has been entirely reshaped into a new outer city where trade, training, and assimilation up from the lower realm can commence. This is a vast information hub, filled with transactions dealing in all things both upper and lower realm. All of the dungeon management is dealt with in the green zone. Full planets can be rented, and dungeons with many new features can be deployed on worlds. Every few years, the Purple Cord Demon Lord, Pluto, makes an appearance to grant these businesses more kin to use in their labyrinths. Yet, over time, these trials have been phased out. Using a real life to guard each one has become far too dangerous. Instead, new dungeon architects have found ways to manipulate Luminite and form mana-based constructs that grant simulated monsters stronger than level 1. 000. This is the most popular business thriving between both realms, as it allows the new generations to grow stronger, and it farms mana and small amounts of ether from the lower realm to stimulate the economy in the upper realm. Some store their energy in the blue and cyan zones, while others directly inject it back into their home worlds to attempt to raise its class to benefit future generations. While the green zone may seem like the weakest of all the zones, it is actually nearly as expensive to permanently buy residence here as it is in the purple zone per square meter. The green zone is not even 100 million kilometers wide, and it is the epicenter of commerce within this galaxy. There are many pathways that follow the root system of the primordial tree, breaking down through the lower layer of the realm into the origin plane. The majority of these highways surge through into the source in the center of the galaxy, but some of the offshoots bend into strange areas of space and find themselves poking through in random, desolate areas of the lower realm. Eventually, all of the routes connected with the ancient highways that connected the stars and assimilation ports were built to allow yellow cores to slowly gain access to the green zone at their own pace. The criteria for ascension to the upper realm is no longer owning a world or claiming a throne. System users don't even have to fully saturate their true cores to manually break through fragile space. There is a small fee to pay, and anyone can ascend. Whether that is pure energy, information, or years of labor, there are many opportunities. In the lower realm, the 5th to 1st class and noble grade worlds still exist. However, with enough effort and connections in the upper realm, one can change their fate. There is also a new classification system of intelligent and unintelligent life. Races that can get along with each other and participate in fair trade all have full access to the upper realms. Races that are violent and stuck in their primal, animalistic forms have been confined to their own pathways of wild planets. It is possible to apply to hunt in these free-for-all worlds. And bounties are even placed on races that are overpopulating and breaking through to the green zone manually too often. Automatic transfer pathways have been constructed for stronger races that break through on their own. They are allowed to roam free within the jungle built on the lower layers of the Grand Citadel. Some of the larger buildings within the cyan and blue zones have been designated for these wild races that continue to grow and break through. This is because, by the time they reach the purple zone, many have matured and gained enough intelligence to be classified as true members of society. Stationed among the billions of star systems, there are high-ranking members formed from the Intergalactic Trade Commission that keep the peace within the lower realm. All of the admins, commanders, and knights have taken advantage of the resources as high-ranking system users with special privileges and become purple cores, yet they remain in the lower realm to solve problems and continuously reinvent infrastructure. Chapter 1074. After scanning the entire lower and upper realm, I grasp what has transpired over the last few hundred years in an instant. All of the live spectate feeds from every living being are still viewable, recording the passage of time from almost every single point of view in the galaxy. However, watching memories alone is not what I want to see. Instead of floating in the membrane, with my mind moving trillions of times faster than any living being within the construct, I lift a finger and send a small pulse of energy down toward the origin plane below. Maria lifts her hand and follows my actions, while Ember does not bother to move. Once these fragments of consciousness effortlessly phase through the barrier held together by laws, 2 red and blue flashes of light fall down from the sky in the purple zone of the upper realm. They hit the ground between 2 legacy inheritance domains, right in front of a main transport platform that leads upward through the growing branches of a green primordial tree. There are 2 lines of purple cord lords waiting to use the fast travel functions to travel to the domains atop the leaves in the tree above. One line is smaller than the other. These lords are waiting to use the fast travel resources to visit the zones below. Even in this form, if I use too much of my perception, I accidentally peer through every zone of the upper realm and right through the origin plane below. It takes a moment to seal off the proper amount of power to only experience the single zone we stand in, though this bit of time is still less than a billionth of a second. The far more difficult adjustment is slowing down my thought process. I can feel Maria's mind shifting and adjusting at the exact same rate. Instead of frozen lines of monsters waiting about, the sounds of casual conversation and the imagery of fast travel orbs moving through the air at a visible rate start to make up my senses. We seal off an enormous amount of our intellect and processing power, hiding the fact that these avatars are made entirely of a tiny droplet of Emperor's essence held together by silver threads. To the eyes of any onlookers, we appear as 2 ordinary purple cord humans. I admire the architecture connecting the ring of legacy domains, and the purple and white pathways that connect domains all throughout the base layer of this zone. My original craft of the ritual domains has not been altered, but the rest of the zone was clearly crafted with the Dryad's protection and illusionary arrays. This story has been taken without authorization. Report any sightings, even the style of the structures themselves. Built into the landscape, I have many fragmented memories of these builds from the ancient legacies I absorbed in this zone. Abby did a pretty good job fixing this place up after the mess we left, don't you think? I point off into the zone. Then, we both stare upward to watch the white and green pulses of light continuously traveling from leaf to leaf among the upper layers of the primordial tree. Maria's gaze wanders from leaf to leaf, embracing the false realm of power we've sealed ourselves at, and the corners of her mouth turn up. No more than 5 seconds pass before dozens of streams of dark green aura, tethered together by purple threads and advanced primordial aura, come pouring down from the trees above. They give off an oppressive glow, and many of the lords in line turn their heads at the sight. It's the enforcement team. What could they possibly be doing here? Everyone knows it's impossible to make trouble near the legacy sites. They're heading toward those 2 humans. Whispers fill the open plaza as these beams of energy touch down in front of us. Viewing these beings on the surface, they all appear as fair-skinned women with armor made of jade-green vines. Their hair and eyes match their gear, shining bright green and flickering with the fluctuations of the primordial tree this entire zone rests within. Each one carries their own soul weapons and has extremely strong true purple cores resting in their chests. A single one of these women feels stronger than every one of the lords in this plaza combined. On the surface, it looks like an entire squad of ancient dryads has miraculously come out of extinction. 2 of them step forward and point their spears forward, speaking in unison. Identify yourselves. You have been marked as unauthorized travelers in the purple zone. Many of the women behind them begin lifting their weapons as well. In a practiced mechanical pattern, the natural reaction of everyone in the vicinity is to move away from the commotion. There are countless safeguards and automatic arrays that activate to shield weaker lords from the pressure of their auras. No one is physically hurt by the pressure coming off these dozens of dryads. But the infused killing intent still seeps through many of the arrays to make everyone watching feel uncomfortable. Maria and I are naturally not protected by these commodities that citizens are granted, yet neither of us flinches, even as the tips of advanced primordial aura-infused blades rest against our throats. Instead, wide smiles grow on both our faces, and Maria breaks the silence. It looks like she's created quite the intricate security system too. These avatars are pretty good. I think they could have fooled me back when we were fighting in the purple zone. I nod in agreement and watch as a shocked expression ripples through all the eyes of the enforcement team staring at us. The shock morphs to an expression of disbelief, then realization, then acceptance, and eventually all of the dryads before us freeze like they've momentarily been ordered not to move a muscle. Their eyes are the only thing left expressing anything. shifting from an automated program of body-doubled clones to the gaze of a familiar teammate from centuries ago. Chapter 1075, each body double begins to blur and vibrate chaotically for a fraction of a second before the spears pointed at us are quickly retracted. There is a collective thud, as every one of them drops to a knee and bows their heads. The entire purple zone quivers, and the fast travel functions pause in place. All of the arrays and main power functions added to the zone cease their automated movements. And a veil of green light shades the entire zone. Only one small fluctuation can be seen by Maria and myself. There are no entities aware enough to watch this being descend from the highest leaf atop the primordial tree. It comes from a domain hidden and closed off from the public eye, and a pathway that hasn't been activated in over a century carries a single human down to the ground level of the zone. Another thud sounds as Abby lands in front of her squad of advanced primordial aura manifestations. Her gaze appears aged, and her physical form appears to have matured and grown slightly taller too. Despite being centuries old, she still appears to be a young woman. The familiar yet unfamiliar figure of these dryads has now made themselves clear. Yet, their faces were not copies of this one I know so well. She too bends her knee to kneel, yet the moment she touches the ground, I let out a wisp of immortal silver threads to surround the three of us. Then, pull us upward back to the position in the domain she came from. It feels as easy as void stepping through the membrane outside. No time at all passed, as the space between the 2 points was ignored. The esteemed immortal emperor and empress have made their return. Echoes through the air while I pull the strands of silver threads back into this drop of essence manifesting my consciousness. The tale has been taken without authorization. If you see it on Amazon, report the incident. Then, Maria raises her hand to let out a stream of mirror-like threads of light. They wrap around Abby's body and pull her up to a standing position. Raising her head, your formalities are appreciated, but you do not need to address me this way now that we're alone. Abby's eyes open in shock, looking around to see we're standing in the core of her fortified cultivation chamber atop the upper realm. There are thousands of defensive arrays to shield the outside from the immense purple. Thread-induced gravity, particles of flawless grade ethereal glyphs, and advanced primordial aura. Yet, in the instant she blinked, she did not even feel herself move through space. Tremors vibrate through her soul, filling her with even more reverence and fear. Yet, the violent pool of uncertainty falls tranquil once Maria runs forward and hugs her tight like old friends. Her eyes grow moist, then tears she hardly remembered she was holding back begin to flow. She hugs Maria back, and an enormous explosion of her raw advanced primordial aura comes flowing out. It starts shattering the shielding arrays put in place within this domain, so I encircle the waves of aura with a faint silver net to channel this energy back into the arrays to strengthen them for later use rather than destroy the ones left. Outside, the dozens of enforcement team's guards have their connections severed, and the automated body doubles dissipate back into the atmosphere. The energy-gathering arrays in the glaze allow this essence to re-merge with the primordial tree. Many lords that were ready to watch a spectacle unfold are left with too many questions. Where'd they go? Those two humans just disappeared. Maybe they were killed instantly. Not all humans are as powerful as our primordial tree's great protector. That must have been it. The enforcement team dealt with them too fast for us to see. Then what was that lag in the fast travel orbs? I swear my vision went entirely green for a moment. It must have been the great protector's warning. Even though she hasn't shown herself to the public for over 100 years, she is still watching. That must be it. The interaction in the plaza was so quick that not a single lord noticed the truth. Yet, the fluctuations deep within Abby's soul have made some aware of her current mental state. The first to notice is an ancient being jolted awake from his nap. The eyes of an enormous blue wyvern slowly open inside a tower within the center of the cyan and blue zone. Chapter 1076, after leaving Maria's embrace, Abby runs across the simple cultivation chamber to hug me tight next. We watched every moment of your duel outside. It may have been just a moment for you, but it has been an eternity for me. I thank you for your sacrifice for the lives of the origin plane, and hope I have achieved even a fraction of what you have. The strength in her body is far stronger than expected. It instantly makes me re-evaluate the laws flowing through the upper realm. There has been a significant shift that took place during the years of realm waves and the solidification of the construct. It is not only because of the shift in the membrane. It is the fact that she, as one entity, holds the upper and lower realms together with such ancient glyphs and flawless great ether. She has played a role in slowly changing the fabric of space within all zones. Abby is at least 1,000 times stronger than Marcellus, the chaos demon that managed to break his demonic body from his soul after 1 billion years of accumulated strength. This is her ability without pulling any borrowed stats from the citizens of this galaxy. If she were to possess this much strength before we left, holes in the upper realm would have been torn apart from the pressure. The system has grown more robust, and the construct has altered the laws of nature and potentials of power in every realm. When she finally loosens her grip, I smile and channel a wisp of silver threads into her eyes, then point down at the enormous, thriving civilization she has built. You've achieved far more than enough. We were your shield, but you allowed life to continue to thrive. The enhanced vision I share with her for a moment peers down into the zone below, catching Seraphel yawn as he wakes from a long nap. In an instant, the three of us are tethered together as I void step into another cultivation chamber deep within a black tower hidden from the rest of the zone by thousands of arrays capable of holding back a peak purple cord lord. The narrative has been illicitly obtained, should you discover it on Amazon. Report the violation. This tower is not marked and does not stand out from any of the other millions of fortresses built throughout the combined cyan and blue zone from the outside, yet, it is the main control tower for an extremely profound array separating the densities of divine threads in the center of the zone. When using fast travel orbs, there is no distinction or difference in cost. One can fly between zones without any worry. There are even towers owned by cyan cord families that have filled their entire fortress from top to bottom with the density of the lesser zone. They only enter from the bottom, yet do business in the higher zone at the top of their towers. Many dark blue cord businesses act the same way, entering from the top of the combined zones and never venturing outside their towers. As we appear in the center of the most essential tower in the zone, an enormous blue wyvern rests within a special chamber filled with purple threads, unique flawless grade glyphs of an ancient wyvern legacy, an advanced primordial aura just like Abby. Unlike the shocked, almost childish reaction of the green-haired woman who still holds only my arm unconsciously, Seraphel's eyes do not change much at the sight of us. He too lowers his head and glows with white and blue light before shrinking down into his elegant human form. A thud sounds throughout his cultivation chamber as he falls to an E. The immortals have returned. A new overseer has claimed this system. I am grateful to have lived to see this day. The fallen one has not led us astray, and I shall serve you until the day I die. Another burst of silver and mirror-like threads pours out from Maria's and my hands as I smile and nod. Very well, your vow has been heard. There is no need for such reverence in private. The threads that race him to his feet flow through his muscles and nerves, even into the depths of his soul, to the point where it feels as though he is standing without any assistance. The mere nap of a few centuries is nothing compared to the tens of thousands of years he slept below the green zone. Our return is not a surprise, yet I start to see the fluctuations of awe and confusion wash over him as he tries to figure out how these strands of energy work. Abby chuckles as she realizes how she must have looked moments ago, and I walk forward out of her grasp to greet this ancient wyvern. As we shake hands, my perception deep dives into every single tower standing within this dual zone territory. My smile widens as I see another shift in the laws that has taken place on a personal level within every single link of loyalty. Chapter 1077. There are far more system users present in the cyan and blue zones, with levels ranging anywhere from 5,000 to some surpassing 100,000. In the purple zone, almost everyone has risen to the six-figure level mark, yet, the purple zone is far more relaxed. The only progression taking place happens within the ritual domains where legacies are stored, or in private cultivation chambers filled with remnants of ancient glyphs or others' primordial aura to increase their comprehension. It is the pinnacle of the upper realm. Through the overindulgence of magical items and the infusion of the immortal healer's artifacts, many facilities allow those with lesser talent to merge and survive ascending to the purple core. There are limits to the potential of most beings. It is where many dwell to retire or set up strongholds for their kin to visit from the lower zones from time to time. In this transitional zone, where various means of commerce take place, the variance of new budding system users is more evident. There are plenty of system users that are less than 5 centuries old, some extremely fortunate talents even below 100 years. They are products of the newest era's system laws, and their essence is far different from earlier generations. From a single glance, I can feel the resonating difference in the generations of living beings from their fluctuations alone. They appear brighter and more vibrant, as if they have melded with the rich essence of an origin plane with fewer poisonous restrictions. The presence of each soul time Maria and I severed is visible in their physical makeups. The younger the lords I see, the less tainted by the old era they are. The deeper I look into the crowds, the more I feel my mind slipping away, recalling the exact memories that coincide with these changing laws. Before I know it, the entire construct begins to blur, and I start peering through the membrane again. Yet, when I blink, I release a large amount of my fragmented essence back into the void to return to my real body. Holding this much power in my avatar is not necessary, and will only hinder my enjoyment of the moment. My gaze returns to one of only inspecting the divine threads, mana, and ether in the air, yet I can still pick up on the interesting shifts in the status progression of the new generation. There are very different buff rewards being granted during the rank up stages. Many prodigies born in the upper realm receive divine bodies upon reaching level 500. Some are even born with celestial forms when born here in the environment of the cyan and blue zones, yet, with these fortuitous system events unfolding, I see that the old Rising Emperor's functions for borrowing skills and buffs at an unlimited rate have ceased. During the Galactic War, in order to eradicate the ancient Imperial demons left behind, every single system user was able to borrow any skills they desired. There was even a free flow of infinite advanced primordial aura and energy control granted to the citizens of the origin plane. Yet, it appears over the years these power allocations have been locked behind walls of authority. Only the admins, knights, commanders, and generals retain full access to this power. However, within this cyan and blue zone, I can feel that it is not just the presence of Seraphel that keeps the peace. There are millions of lords granted specific allocations of this extra power who maintain the balance. In the purple zone, I did not recognize any beings like this, because Abby's fragmented consciousness alone is strong enough to separate into an army of body doubles to handle every purple cord lord in the galaxy. Within this zone, hovering around every tower, the presence of real system users is evident. Many of them belong to the lizard and snake races, a few hold purple cores and act as enforcement squad leaders, but the majority within these zones hold true dark blue cores. They consist of lizardmen, black and white serpents, emerald geckos, and various races that have found it convenient and fulfilling to serve under the reign of the last blue wyvern. I pull my curious probing back and smile as I retract my hand from the respectful greeting with the blue-haired human form of Seraphel. You have amassed quite the guard squad here. I remember a few of those captains from below Ellipsia. They've grown a lot. While this infrastructure is impressive, my senses keep seeping downward. And I feel that the changes within the green zone are the most profound. Chapter 1078, with another instant activation of silver threads, I tether the four of us together and void step downward into the green zone. Unlike the last two meetings that ended up in confined cultivation chambers, this time we find ourselves out in the open, with green clouds floating by left and right. On an expansive platform atop the grand citadel of the green zone, there is only one figure present. Looking out over the edge into the vast green zone, there are many towers built on the base of this zone, rising high above the thicker cloud layer below most citadels. They all look very similar to the towers in the zone we just left. However, many of these buildings are not sealed off from the outside zone. There are many open windows, doors, and public markets with the same green divine thread gravity count as the rest of the zone. Of course, a few buildings are specially crafted, but in the main hubs near the citadels, that is not the case. As I peer all the way across the zone, many smaller private chambers are built with these specifications. The fast travel orbs in this zone are far slower than in the zones above, as the average level of system users here ranges from 500 to 10,000 on average. There are rare exceptions of singular six-figure level holders at the top of most towers, working as business owners or private guards. Yet, the normal citizens I watch roam about are mostly newly ascended system users, or weaker beings that are far more interested in business and managing worlds, item sales, and dungeon rentals rather than becoming stronger themselves. I quickly begin to map out the wealth districts in the general vicinity. The Grand Citadel's bottom floor, which is the largest, holds the majority of high-end shops and commerce centers. It works like the heartbeat of the cities that surround it. Many of the fast travel lanes connecting the buildings that are not on the citadel still connect at the same altitude, millions of kilometers above the zone floor, perfectly in line with the lower layer of the citadel. The further away from the epicenter, the less prosperous the markets become. There is no definitive separation, but over the centuries of alliances and natural growth, new districts and community habits have been born. Though, unlike my first time entering a major city in the green zone, fear and oppression do not fill the air. I see over 1 million guards within the Grand Citadel alone. The majority are at the peak of the green true core, while littered among the captains there are some cyan and blue cord lords in charge. I recognize many of these higher-tiered guards as system users I saved from Ellipsia centuries ago. They were souls trapped within demonic servant avatars, yet after conquering the zone, the warlords crafted new avatars for all of them. When I spot other citadels floating far off in the distance, it appears they too have adopted similar models, having their floating islands as the city epicenters. and for millions of kilometers surrounding them, larger cities are built. A smile slowly forms on my face as I retract my senses back to the platform we stand on. The presence of a deep purple-cored goblin queen turns around as she senses movement behind her, Ava's eyes open wide. As our gazes meet, and the subtle fluctuations of long-range telepathy messages burst off of her. It would be easy to intercept and even read the contents of her messages, but I sense who they're headed to and decide not to intervene. A thud echoes through this entire floor of the Citadel. It is the third time I'm witnessing such a sight, but watching old battle partners that I thought of as near equals all kneel at the very sight of me has still not become normal. The Emperor has returned. I humbly welcome you back to the Green Zone. Just as wisps of silver threads start to form on my fingers, a red and white burst of light from afar approaches at a rapid rate, so I wait until they arrive. The enormous battle forms of a purple-cored scarlet berserker and a pristine white griffin both touch down behind her. Upon impact, they revert to their smallest suppressed forms and bow their heads while falling to a knee. Not saying a word, Maria sends out threads of mirrors intertwined with my simple silver threads, and the three of them are lifted to their feet again. Chapter 1079. Instantly, another wave of silver threads tethers us together, and I void step through the zone into the top floor of the highest tower in Ellipsia. This is the very tower that the generals used to assimilate to the upper realm. Many of its features have been maintained, just as they were. However, the city itself has grown much larger to accommodate the influx of new system users pouring in. There are many assimilation towers using exactly the same technology all throughout the Citadel, even on the ground surrounding the city. There are larger towers built directly on top of ascension points. The complex arrays built into these buildings bear the marks of Abby's legacy and her advanced primordial aura that allows system users to instantly heal from any injury in its presence. They are far more intricate than the ascension towers I made as a green core. Even a level 1 system user could climb and assimilate to the green zone given enough time in these conditions. Many of the surrounding buildings in the city surrounding the Citadel are very similar to the Grand Citadel's layout, yet they are run mostly by orcs and ogres. All of the old framework from Torvak and Asik's old conglomerates has turned this place into their sanctuary. Both of these purple-cored warlords are already kneeling with their heads down when we arrive. Half the walls of this expansive room are filled with data from the dungeon and energy trade, while the other is filled with real-time surveillance systems connected to the spectate feeds of every guard on duty. After watching Zashin and the White Griffin fly from their chambers toward the Grand Citadel, and piecing together the footage and telepathy messages from Ava, these two ancient warlords knew exactly who had arrived. Immortal Emperor. Immortal Empress. We have awaited your return, true overseers. I am grateful to have lived long enough to be in your presence. A light smile forms on my face as I manipulate their bodies to raise them off the ground. Rise. You have done well. With another finger movement, we all find ourselves millions of kilometers across the zone atop the tallest tower in the Mensa Citadel. Just like Ellipsia, this floating island has gone through a large-scale growth period over the last few centuries. Both the towers on the main island and the cities that branch off grow millions of kilometers out into the green clouds. When I scan the system users here, I find that there are massive pockets of human populations. When I first entered this zone as a newly formed green core, the number of humans in the upper realm was nearly non-existent. Out of every million citizens, there were only a single-digit number of humans. Now, as I scan through the business industries and private housing in this zone, there are hundreds of billions of humans right before my eyes. In certain portions of the city, they are the majority race. Within the few seconds that I've been here in the green zone, I've already sensed a few more humans ascending up from the lower realm and even more giving birth here in the green zone, increasing the population at an extremely fast rate. Pride is the first emotion that fluctuates through the small fragment of my soul at the sight, but there is also a pattern that I can't help but lock onto as I search through the many crowds. There is a certain lineage that holds positions of power throughout this megacity. It's quite hard to catch at first glance, but with the laws fluctuating in every person I scan, I can tell that not a single one of these humans in power was born before I left the upper realm. There are a few thousand of them, all sharing a common aura, whether that be the way their noble vibrations fluctuate, the color of their soul energy, or the nature of their primordial aura. Every one of these humans has the essence of the two ancient berserker clans running through their blood. I can count over 10 generations of families all living together and running this city seamlessly. The older generations look more and more familiar until I trace it back to two people. When we appear on top of the Mensa Citadel's highest tower, I see exactly where this new human clan of elites originated from. An archer and a dual-bladed swordswoman kneel before me. Chapter 1080. Extremely dense purple cores manifest in the man and woman that kneel before me. Their natural royal grade vibrations and advanced primordial aura have evolved to an extremely potent level. Surrounding their forms, I see the invisible flawless grade glyphs from Abby's legacy shielding them from the outside. However, below these glyphs, I see suppression seals of their own. Even without the automated shields, they would be capable of existing in any zone they wish without harming the balance of space and lives within, from within Ares' form. I can feel millions of dark black obsidian hands holding ancient dark elven bows. The ether circulating through his soul energy core is nearly all extremely refined, high-quality ether. However, there is a very interesting phenomenon taking place where parts of it consolidate into flawless grade glyphs when they interact with his dark black advanced primordial aura. Raven's aura is even more interesting. If anyone below Abby's strength were to look at her, she would appear as nothing but a mortal woman. The fully advanced state of her primordial aura has taken on the traits of her stealth skill and molded with her true purple core's pocket dimension ability. The energy circulating through her body is completely invisible and untouchable. Deep within this aura, I feel the sharp scarlet energy that originates back to the Berserker's legacy she absorbed on Kelfer. However, it is only visible to me by peering through the fluctuations of laws in her consciousness. This power is a final trump card, hidden even deeper within her concealment. Ari and Raven combined could easily defeat the full-powered Prime Chaos form Marcellus of the Purple Zone centuries ago. Their presence emanates enough danger to the point I believe the fight would be over in a single strike. It makes me mentally compare their strength to Ava standing nearby, and it feels their innate strength is a few tiers higher. Though, this Goblin Queen could fend off the Imperial family head alone without being injured too badly. The warlords behind me are strong and have benefited greatly from the rise in technology in the upper realm. However, I think it would have taken all of them combined to take him down, and it would be a brutal fight of life or death. This assessment is of their peak conditions without even borrowing stats or perks from the links of loyalty. Using the current growth in this galaxy's strength, any of them could kill Marcellus with a single glance from the opposite side of the zone. I smile and use a wave of silver threads to bring them to their feet. Rise. You are the founding generals. In private, these formalities are not necessary. Even though I raise their heads, the look in their eyes still feels as though they're looking up in reverence to an unfamiliar god. Maria and I step forward to hug and greet both of them. Their physical forms do not appear as though they've aged much, but their eyes show that they have watched their many children, grandchildren, and over 10 generations after that grow old. They are far more rooted in the present. There is an acceptance and sense of fulfillment in their gaze that I never saw before in these wandering souls. Once I tether the room together and void step up and down to the lower realm, I'm met with the same scene over and over. There is an enormous artificial, solar system-sized planet that would make Brimia appear as a speck. It is built from the remnants of thousands of abandoned noble grade worlds. Over 100 white stars are fused into this base as its power source to make sure all functions remain continuously stable. Billions of fast travel points merge into its docks, and quintillions of true yellow cord system users reside here from many races. From the surface of the artificial planet down to the core, there are towers and facilities for business, living, and training. At its very center, there is a private cultivation chamber where Bree, Rodrigo, Alvaron's puppet, and almost half of the knights on duty bow their heads and drop to one knee when they see us. I void step across the galaxy a few times, greeting other pockets of knights. They are all purple cores. And many newly hired guards keep the peace in this lower realm. They range from green to cyan cores in number in the tens of millions, watching over many star sectors and managing the fast travel highways. There are 2 more enormous artificial planet bases that are almost half the size of the one run by Bree. They too are crafted from the remains of noble grade worlds and are powered by the leftover stars from solar systems without life. Yet, they are far more private and do not allow any normal citizens to enter like the galactic core. One is dark black and purple, where I greet Pluto and his Earth Dragon, bowing their heads as we stand atop an enormous black mountain at the center of his demonic world. This is where many of the demons left within labyrinths have come home to, as among the hundreds of billions of planets across the galaxy, many still held demonic seeds when the war was over. It is a sanctuary with a growing population, yet over the centuries, many have grown more docile. Those that still held allegiance to the old eras were eradicated by Pluto long ago. The next stop in the lower realm is the enormous artificial world almost entirely filled with humans. This is the main ascension point where I sensed humans arriving in the Mensa Citadel when I was in the Green Zone. When we appear here, we are not in its core. Instead, I void step us to the tallest tower on an artificial orbiting moon that is powered by 36 stars to meet its 2 leaders. Chapter 1081, Fisher and Lydia kneel before me, both radiating mature royal vibrations and advanced primordial auras with similar strength to the warlords behind me. They have Abby's protective arrays sealing their purple core's overwhelming gravity from destroying the lower realm, appearing similar to the generals above. However, they look far more aged than Ari and Raven. They are far past what middle-aged humans normally look like, leaning toward the edge of their twilight years. They have the same look of contentment and wisdom. When I scan the moon and artificial world we orbit around, I feel a scattered bloodline resonance throughout many positions of power. There are quintillions of humans here. But the few thousand strongest are all descendants of the 2 commanders kneeling before me. It is an interesting sight to behold. Fisher was one of my first teachers, assigned to guide me through mana control back on the human world. Lydia was the same guide for Maria. Now, they speak to us with humble tones. You have returned. Our emperor has succeeded. Welcome back, Empress. We watched your battle for all these years. It was the faith that kept me going. Maria's fingers move, and she pulls both of them up with thin webs of mirrors. You have done well, she replies, while my consciousness follows all of the ether pathways streaming out from this enormous base. It has even more surveillance and energy ports than the galactic core, just hidden behind complex arrays. While the public base we just left is larger and outfacing is the epicenter of the galaxy for trade, this base is the true core for intelligence and control. All signals flow through here before ending up at the galactic core. It looks like we have one more stop to go. I tether us together again and void step up toward the deepest hidden link between every zone. Deep within the ravine, behind layers of shielding arrays, there are dark caverns where not even the light of ether highways glows enough to shine through. All of the pathways between the cyan zone and green zone bend around this consolidated space. There are no public transport routes leading to the ravine. Only special nodes within Fisher and Lydia's moon base, and one more at the very top of the upper realm where Abby's control center lies. When we appear at its center, I witness a team of a few thousand people all kneeling before me. At the front, Monk and Luna both kneel. Extremely strong purple cores fill their chests, and 2 extremely distinct advanced primordial auras permeate out of them. One is pure white, emanating out of the old bearded man that I once knew as the young man from the Dark Continent's Valor City arena of the human world. It feels serene and perfected, as it integrates with the near-flawless great ether filling his soul energy core. The other is made from controlled demonic chaos, flowing out of the old stature of Luna. Her eyes are closed as she bows her head to the ground. However, I can see through their true form. Her ranked-up transformations have merged and evolved over the centuries. Instead of summoning the many demons and monsters she's defeated into the sky, they now all stack into her own. I feel millions of pupils hidden behind her eyelids. The team behind them is made up of 3 distinct types of people. The first are pure white ether forms that do not integrate with the mana-based system any longer. Many of them are elders of the temple that Monk originated from. The second group is comprised of unrelated humans, all with very standard potentials. And there are a few faces I recognize from long ago. One is Lith, the old leader of Valor City. Another is the old association director of the Bedrock region. More and more familiar faces appear, and some still remain unknown, but they have all grown old and devoted the rest of their lives to work here. The third group is small, but they are all from the new eras we left, sharing law fluctuations that link them back to the many generations of the commanders before me. At the very back of the crowd, there is a bright white ascended elf kneeling and bowing their head too. Ren, the final admin, has gone through very unique primordial aura shifts. Usually, after one uses this legacy to sacrifice their physical forms, they can no longer progress. At least, that was what often happened to demons that tried it in the purple zone. Yet, the last light elf has become many times stronger and radiates an aura filled with far more confidence and sense of belonging. With a swift hand movement, the thousands of beings before me rise. Though, my gaze looks far past them, analyzing the billions of sorted and studied compartments filled with originator artifacts collected all throughout the lower and upper realm. Chapter 1082, I recognize a very small amount of these artifacts from Kelfer. There are far more that were uncovered from abandoned noble-grade worlds just like it. The star systems harvested to make galactic ports in the lower realm had their relics and ancient artifacts saved. Not other from the lower realm, but many of these carvings, tablets, pedestals, and text etched into ancient stone are from the ravine itself. There are even larger sections of this museum-like research site that have no correlation to any of the past memories I've absorbed of this current galaxy. Quickly, I thread together the backlog of data from spectate feeds and my raw senses of experiencing the passage of time in the origin plane while I was fighting in the membrane. There are various instances where large ancient artifacts were transported from forgotten chambers of the fortress citadel in the Green Zone. Millions of enormous locked rooms were opened up that held high-quality ether seals on them. While these were incredibly intricate and impossible for any living beings to crack in the recent eras, the mental prowess that Ari and Raven hold was enough to break through the majority of the outer seals. However, deep within the fortress, there were still flawless grade glyphs holding together arrays locked tight for billions of years, many of which held conditions of specific bloodlines or fluctuations of primordial aura to activate. All of the races that made these seals were long extinct. I allow my consciousness to flow outward, examining the laws fluctuating off the artifacts acquired here, and begin comparing them to the fortress citadel that is still intact now. It is being used as another long-term storage system for the new generations, but the residue from the ancient seals is still present. The deeper in toward the center of this enormous maze-like artifact I probe, the stronger the density of ether I feel. It even comes close to the purity of my ether pool in the moments before I merged all of my energies in the membrane. Logically, even with the new enhancement of laws in the system, there should not be any energy so strong and pure in the upper realm. Looking back on the 2 billion or so years of memories I hold from absorbing the minds of my enemies, even in those eras there should not have been this purity of ether present. The fortress was constructed by a being before the demons emerged. I begin to examine and calculate the rate of decay present on these high-quality arrays, and compare them to the state of the fortress when Noctis scanned the upper realm during his life. It is clear that as the eras passed, many of the complex flawless grade seals aged throughout time and lowered their efficacy to high-quality ether. Given another few billion years, this fortress would have probably shown signs of medium quality and even low quality arrays, even without the exact memories of the lost eras, where no living beings or even races exist to prove what happened. I can calculate that this fortress was crafted approximately 6 billion years ago. It was made without the direct link to a system. Instead made entirely of independent ether glyphs and arrays. It is not a timeless artifact. All of the structures, pure ether, and black soulstone mass are from this galaxy. All of the laws vibrating within them show that this is their true birthplace, the current origin plane. Even without my deductions, there are many records within this museum sealed away in the ravine. They are sealed away in data packet formations, with a unique lock made from Abby's primordial aura. Yet, for me, this is simple to peer through. Over the past few centuries, the research teams here have found evidence for over 700,000 extinct ancient races. Many of them have unique languages. Yet deciphering them is quite easy. Many hold common root languages, and the eras overlap, referencing each other. Approximate era dating was already constructed and documented. Even the building of the fortress citadel is referenced, yet there are many corridors, storage rooms, and caves that are still left untouched, as they are mysteries the teams down here are continuing to work on. When my senses flow through them, even the stones that are flat without any symbols or remaining ether to test, I gain far more knowledge than the researchers. Some vibrate with laws birthed far before the citadel was formed. Many even exhibit fluctuations of a time before the upper realm was even stretched over the origin plane. However, my eyes only widen in surprise when I start to feel the presence of fluctuations present in memories that I have only absorbed through my sword and the golden glyphs in Ember's eyes. There are artifacts here that have familiar laws, those from past great cycles, that should not exist in this galaxy. Chapter 1083, some of the chaotic and unmarked artifacts truly are from this galaxy, some reaching back to 8 billion years ago, and others even up to 10 billion years. There are extremely well-contained fragments of strange energy strands and unrecognizable fragments of artifacts that are still sealed away in small isolation systems made of ancient flawless-grade ether arrays. These arrays themselves have decayed at the same rate as the fortress citadel, not dating back further than 6 billion years. Yet, the oldest wisps of matter and artifact shards seem to be just over 13 billion years old. The foreign artifacts that cannot be placed on any timeline within this origin plane are far more intriguing. It is because when I block out the newly added laws that have taken root in this system, and only focus on the past lives my sword has been through, it all becomes a little more clear. I begin to map out the exact memories that align with the fluctuation of laws manifesting on these foreign artifacts. There is an enormous black oval with not a single wisp of ether left inside it. Every single test done in the ravine has no reaction, yet, the stone is so hard that even the commander's full strength cannot dent its outer edges. Instantly, the laws emanating from this rounded stone are consistent with the inner core of a star-eating species from billions of cycles ago. its true form used to look like an elongated fish, and a past wielder of this blade that had ethereal white hair and turquoise skin had a very strong soul bond with this creature throughout his life. Next, my attention shifts to a triangular pyramid-shaped artifact that shares similar qualities. It is as black as the void, without a single wisp of energy flowing through it. Even tests where these teams tried infusing it with divine threads, matter, ether, and even demonic energy all failed, yet, when I watch the laws fluctuating through it, my memories anchor me to over 1 trillion cycles back. This was the centerpiece in a grand formation that held tens of thousands of galaxies together to win a great war. It helped in gathering enough energy from the foreign races in this alternate universe, slowly siphoning it into my soul sword while the past wielder of this blade was gravely injured. He was a frail, gray silver-skinned humanoid creature with 2 pupils in each eye. A race not very adept in physical combat, but unmatched in mental attacks, the complex array managed to isolate the wielder from the passage of time while millions of years passed on the outside. Biding its time until the rightful supreme could return, when another strange artifact catches my attention, it is even further back in the many countless great cycles, a heavy crown-like artifact that was worn as a protective shield, making it capable for the wielder to traverse vast amounts of open deep space without any other technology. Every out-of-place artifact I set my eyes on tells its own story through the resonating laws, and I realize this is a personal treasury that has been somehow brought along through the passing cycles. Not every cycle has an artifact that aligns with it. If that were the case, this entire galaxy wouldn't be big enough to store them. Yet, everyone is a noteworthy relic respecting the sacrifices of extinct races that helped past emperors in their travels. In less than a millisecond, I scan through every artifact and re-experience the most potent events from past emperors once again. There are even some here that open up new pockets of time and great cycles that I still had locked away and unperceived until now, yet, I put on a smile and blink as though nothing out of the ordinary is happening, and tether all of the kneeling subjects before me to stand. Rise. Your efforts in uncovering the truths of the past are commendable. I thank you for your devotion. The grateful eyes of hundreds of people stare at me and Maria standing before them, unable to bow as I keep them upright. A sense of relief washes through them, but they still look at us with unyielding reverence. Like we are no longer of the same race, like we are unfamiliar gods, we welcome Ren, Monk, and Luna to the gathering, then exchange subtle greetings with notable figures that work here doing research. Yet, even once this gathering begins to reconnect with each other, as they have been zones apart for numerous months or years too, I feel that there is still an unbreakable awkwardness creating tension in the air. Maria and I walk apart, speaking and catching up individually with long-lost teammates. Yet, the air of subservience remains in every conversation. Our status has permanently shifted in everyone's minds, and it has been subconsciously ingrained for hundreds of years. We have been gods protecting them, battling an ancient silver-cored immortal demon outside of the galaxy for far longer in their perspective than the amount of time we have ever spent as equals by their sides. Even as we try to warm up to everyone again, it becomes obvious that it will not be that simple. It will take hundreds of years to rewrite this inner coding, and even so, there will always be a shadow looming over these new thoughts. After all, it is not an illusion they have conjured up. We have in fact ascended to a level of existence far beyond what any living beings in the lower or upper realm can comprehend. Chapter 1084. Hours pass, and we take a tour through the ravine's newest discoveries. Luna and Monk are quite excited to show off the lists of new languages and extinct races they have discovered. Not only to us, but to the other commanders, admins, and generals that don't visit this place often. Abby manifests a temporary fast travel route, allowing us to move throughout the lower realm and all of the zones incognito and explore all of the new infrastructure we passed on the way down. Maria and I have already scanned every particle of this new era, and even comprehended its evolution through time using the fluctuations of laws. However, the smiles on everyone's faces allow us to hold back our words and let them give us a tour. Our conversations are wholesome, and bring a glimmer of the past with them. Though, instead of growing closer, I feel as though we're drifting apart even more. The tiny droplets of Emperor's essence that make up these avatars are such a minuscule fraction of our entire minds. While I can reminisce on the past, it truthfully has become as simple and dull as interacting with simple ants that cannot comprehend more complex levels of thinking. A tinge of sadness begins to build up as I stare into the eyes of everyone, and everything I ever knew in the upper and lower realms becomes so foreign and simple. Yet, I hold Maria's avatar's hand tight beside me. She is the only human left in this entire galaxy that truly understands what is going through my thoughts. Wisps of silver red metallic and icy blue, mirror like threads of liquid separate from our bodies as the private gathering of people make their way with us up to the purple zone of the upper realm. Abby hosts a gathering in her private domain atop the highest leaf on the primordial tree. We attend and listen to the current state of events, and re-listen to the stories we have viewed in the saved spectate feeds. However, fragments of these avatars void step through space and return to the lower realm. More specifically, our avatars materialize back on the human world. We disguise ourselves as unassuming low-level dungeon divers, and start walking the streets of a small city in the Vice region. There is a small apartment building standing right in front of us. It is the very one I rented when I first became a hunter, and the unit right next door was where Maria lived, and met me even before she awakened to the system. After hundreds of years, it should not still be standing, and look so similar. It has been renovated and rebuilt quite a few times, but I sense the presence of lingering high-quality ether arrays all over this town, and in fact, the entire 8 great regions in Dark Continent. I even sense the presence of the old shopkeeper's stall that I sold my first mana crystal to. The old association headquarters hardly look any different, and most of the dungeon placements all over the globe are still intact. The only difference is the people in charge. When I send my senses far out into the Dark Continent, the Crimson City and the Canyon of Dungeons are still prospering. Even the Dark Blackstone prison with a single soul trapped within, the Vice Region Director that betrayed our party, it is still guarded and stands untouched deep within the desert. Many mortals that do not ascend to the upper realm aren't capable of living more than 200 years or so. All of the Hunters Association Director positions have changed, and all of the city lords of the major cities and sectors in the Dark Continent have been cycled through by popular votes. It appears even the technology in this world has hardly changed at all. There are strict arrays crafted with the Dryad's legacy to maintain this world's purity like a historical site. The only exception is the island nation on the far side of the world. It is where the central headquarters of the association was, where the secret organization known as the Order held control of the world and conspired with demons, almost leading to the human race's downfall. This massive high-tech city has changed a lot. Here, the adoption of the Upper Realm's new dungeon systems has been implemented. The upper limit is no longer level 999 on mana construct simulations. The warlords and generals have helped to craft new training facilities that can safely reach the 5 digits. There is a single ether stream port connected to this world, allowing for fast travel through the central capital upward to the Green Zone port to the Mensa Citadel to commence. Yet, the application process to enter and exit this megacity is very strict. The world would not have maintained its status quo for hundreds of years as the exhibit it is if it wasn't. After wandering around and taking in the sights, even this place I used to call home becomes dull, like a predictable painting trapped in time. Still, it mends and refines a strand of my inner soul to return and admire it like this one more time. I look upward, peering through all of the zones above and through the shielding array filled with laws that constrain the construct to the origin plane. I whisper to Maria as the sun starts to set slowly on this human world. I think it's time we get back to the membrane. I've made my peace, now I'm prepared to see what is on the other side. Chapter 1085, you're right. Let's return, she replies as the sun falls over the human world's horizon. Both of our avatars dissolve into the void, falling out of the origin plane and reconnecting with our true bodies in the membrane with ease. The avatar fragments in the upper realm stay longer to reminisce and interact with all of the powerful leaders. The knights come to visit, and even some of the most talented and prominent descendants from Ari and Raven's family, as well as a few from Fisher and Lydia's moon base in the lower realm. They respectfully greet us, but the look in their eyes is even more estranged than that of their ancestors. The newer generations see us as actual gods, like we are a physical manifestation of the system. To be truthful, they are not wrong. Slowly, the many loyal links of loyalty all leave back to their posts. I personally send off the members of the inner circle, but it feels like a disconnected, bittersweet goodbye. Everyone has grown into their own routines, and found their place in their realms, even Abby, when it is only her left before us. We hug her tight once again, and promise to return when we get the chance. Yet, even the strongest being in this entire galaxy, the glue that holds the entire upper and lower realm together. Her mind, perspective, priorities, and duties are still so different than ours. As we fade back into the membrane, it doesn't even feel like we are saying goodbye. In fact, there is a rush of relief that comes over me, as it feels like this is just a final confirmation of the information that was already present in my mental space. We have become overseers. owners, and rulers of the lives and deaths of all beings on the origin plane, the next moment of active thought returns back to the enormous blue and red immortal emperor's forms floating before a golden dragon in the membrane. In the time we've left, many more laws have completely consolidated, and the new peace of mind I've gained ripples through my entire being. Despite no additional raw power being added to my immortal form, I feel as though my perception has grown even more immense. The small pinholes of visible space peeking through the membrane grow larger. It is like my mind is melting away the barriers, yet the physical membrane stays completely intact. The only thing breaking through the gaps and strange bends in space is my mind. The cool, icy sensation of Maria's mirror-like consciousness following right beside mine helps to widen the gaps and create new pathways to break through too. Ember does not help, he simply floats in space and watches with an indifferent expression, just as he did when we sent fragments of ourselves back into the origin plane. Stolen story, please report. Now, with both of our far more concentrated minds working together, we seep through the membrane in a matter of seconds. It takes an enormous amount of mental power to peer through, but once our consciousness erupts through to the other side, it expands without any resistance. At first, it feels like we have just broken out of one void to plunge our minds into another, yet, this membrane has a surface, a presence, a mass and mind of its own. There are laws fluctuating within every area of it. The space outside is truly empty. In just a matter of milliseconds, thousands of times less time than it took to break through the barrier, our minds spread out tens of times the total distance of the entire membrane. We probe outward for hundreds of lengths of galaxies until we meet even the clues for other mass in this universe. My consciousness sweeps over a chaotic puddle of mass and broken laws, swirling extremely slowly with billions of ancient planets, but not a single sign of any remaining stars. There is no ether, mana, or even demonic energy present. It is just the remnants of a galaxy sucked dry of all its energy and life. The further out my mind travels, the more surface area it hits at once. Multiple chaotic galaxy tombs enter my field of view, and the number of them builds up further in the opposite direction as Maria's mind uncovers the exact same scenes. It is only a few at first, and they all look similar. Though, after the total crosses 100 galaxies, some differences appear. A few do not even have planets intact any longer, all of the mass remaining is crushed to near microscopic dust. Others are even more subtle, with no mass remaining at all. There is only the fragmented and bent space left behind containing unique law fluctuations. I can infer what happened, but there is no physical proof left behind. The number of dead galaxies rises to thousands, then hundreds of thousands. Entire superclusters begin to show up in my senses, dead and cold. Many still have fragments of ancient life, but some are even more daunting, with the indents of space and laws telling me that tens of thousands of galaxies have just completely disappeared without a trace. I even start to sense the presence of laws that can only come from an entity like this membrane. Like it, or something like it, was surrounding some of these galaxies before. Yet, if it did, my soul sword was not present. No past life memories within this universe have ever been recorded. I try to piece together more clues, but my guess has only become more convoluted as the total number of dead and cold galaxies crosses 1 million. From here, our minds have grown accustomed to traveling through this deep space. In fact, they become even faster. I begin to develop a void step technique to push even my consciousness further into the universe faster than the laws of space around it should allow. The registered galaxies quickly surpass 100 million, to a billion, then 100 billion, and surge upward to near a trillion ancient, abandoned galaxies. Not a single one holds any signs of energy or life remaining. Ember's words to Noctis, telling him that there are no systems remaining in this realm, repeat in my mind as I spread my consciousness further and further. The red and blue tinted minds become so proficient in void stepping that we meld together instantly despite traveling in separate directions at first. Now, nearly the entire universe has become enveloped in our mental senses despite still being trapped behind the membrane. This space outside has no energy or essence in its atmosphere, making it extremely easy to process the physical information being scanned. The only complex data is the fluctuation of laws. We need to stop for almost a full minute to process everything and make sense of it. My soul sword may not have been to any of these other galaxies, but there are extremely familiar laws that I can pinpoint to someone without a doubt. Ember has been outside the membrane, and the state of the current universe is all is doing. Chapter 1086. What is the meaning of this? What have you done in the galaxies beyond the one connected to this system? I send a burst of telepathy toward Ember within the membrane, even relaying the imagery of laws and my emotions attached to each new galaxy I discover. it is impossible to piece together exactly what happened in just a glance, but I'm certain it was his doing. The golden glyphs in his eyes begin to spin once more as he replies, I was looking for the key. It is never easy finding it, but this cycle certainly made it one of the most difficult trials. His gaze looks right past me, and to the sword in my grasp. This blade's inner mechanisms tethered to the system are still churning, and have not yet floated up to materialize in reality. All of the functions are still trapped in the form of incomplete laws, yet, even Ember's concentrated stare makes the tension loosen up, like it is trying to break through but still can't. The key. The key to what? What exactly does this soul weapon do? There is still indifference in Ember's eyes, but he smiles at my question. Look further. You have not yet explored the ends of this universe. The answers are already in front of you. We have already completed the hard part. Ember's eyes continue to let out bursts of laws and unique ancient golden glyphs. They are no longer so shock-inducing and extreme. Now it feels more like a calm, cool breeze, allowing me to concentrate more efficiently. I allow my mind to seep out even further, past every known remnant of the ancient galaxies born at the dawn of this realm. It leads me nowhere, only plunging my mind in enormous pockets of dark emptiness where no light, no energy, and no mass exists. Even the laws that hold reality together and make sense of the past, present, and future start to thin out, making it difficult to latch onto anything in my consciousness. Yet, I still push outward further in all directions, through uncharted bends and layers of space, allowing all of the immense power gathered within this galaxy to scan all of existence outside of it. The further I push, the more emptiness I discover. Yet, I have absorbed the memories of my blade, and have touched on the premise of infinity before. I must go deeper, and discover new directions to search. It does not take long. Our minds begin to cover vast areas of space that are large enough to hold billions of galaxies, yet there are only a few hundred remnants that show up in the depths of my senses, stolen from Royal Road. This story should be reported if encountered on Amazon. Eventually, these turn to only dozens, and once far enough out in the emptiness of this true abyss. I'm lucky to sense the presence of a single galaxy's remains within a billion light-years. Even the fluctuations of laws cease to hold these portions of space together. Either there was never anything here, or it has been far too long and reality itself forgot about what was present. My mind has to travel somewhere, so it digs into the fabric of the void. It tries to break through this universe-wide construct, like it is some kind of membrane, despite no proof it exists. This is the case in every direction our minds reach. To a linear thinking being on the origin plane, our mental prowess might look like an enormous sphere 93 billion light-years wide. However, it is bending in so many untraceable directions. Not only is it folding through every bend and crevice in space, but it is also analyzing and deconstructing the fluctuation of laws vibrating all throughout the realm. We are not only piecing together the physical mass and structure of the universe, but also perceiving the passage of time itself. Each altered law tells a story. The more I align with each dent in this universal field, the more I see energy from the past reacting with each other. Even though there is no mana or ether present in this dark abyss, I can see exactly where it once was down to the particle and timeline. Ember's words start to make far more sense. It is because once digging into empty deep space only leads to more dead ends. Portions of my mind try to peer into the laws of the galaxies left behind holding the most chaos. Extracting their past, and even interacting with the fluctuating fields of reality finally uncovers clues. I begin to watch past visions Ember in his full golden draconic form dominating many star systems and tearing galaxies apart. They aren't memories or any inheritance, they are real visions of the past. I can see everything that has ever happened in certain places, and predict the fluctuations of the current residual laws to see exactly what will happen in the future. Each one of these galaxies had their own complex systems, unique races, and powerhouses. They are as diverse as some of the memories I glimpsed through my sword. But within this universe my blade never made an appearance. The more galaxies I watch get destroyed, the more I see that Ember is frantically searching for this very soul weapon. The exact order in which he galaxy hopped is perfectly laid out in my mental vision. This is because each time he left one, it was completely drained of its energy. This membrane artifact was even used to isolate galaxies from the others while Ember searched, and he would pour all of the collected energy from the stars of other galaxies into the new ones to search. The technological developments of galaxies become exponentially faster when their worlds are rich with ether and a mana or demonic energy binding agent as a power source. I begin to realize that the weakest fluctuating laws in the outer galaxies are not just because they were far longer ago. It is because they were one of the first galaxies searched and had little to no energy in them compared to the later systems. The first galaxies were mostly reliant on pure technology using the elements of the universe and the minds of intelligent life on a select number of worlds. Gradually, pure soul essence was farmed from the many living beings in these galactic civilizations, and brought to new galaxies to speed up their growth. My understanding of the soul ties that still connect me to the galaxy I came from begins to expand again as I realize that ether is not a naturally abundant resource in the universe. It is a very scarce fragment of life itself that has been scavenged and collected throughout hundreds of billions of galaxies in order to create the magic system I'm using now. When this clicks, my consciousness expands and shifts again, plunging deep within the laws of energy ancient galaxies past left behind. They are like weak points in the fabric of the universe. For a moment, I get a glimpse of the other side. It is a familiar place without time or space that I saw once before. Chapter 1087. The moment I catch a glimpse of the beyond, I feel my consciousness being pulled into a strange yet familiar place. This pocket of reality is the outer edges of the entire universe. It feels like another infinitely large space, but it can be accessed from anywhere. When peering deep enough into the laws of reality with enough pressure, there are weaknesses all throughout the universe that can be seen through. The only other physical presence I feel with me in this space is Maria. I have felt and seen this place before, when interacting with the Creator's legacy and a void creeper from beyond this universe. That very place they came from is what I see. There are evenly placed artifacts floating within a void. They do not have a color, but the human fragments of my mind fill in these sensations with darkness. They are not truly lined up in even rows, nor do they take up any real space. Yet, when peering into this place, I see hundreds of billions of stone tablets all lined up together. Sometimes they appear as one single file line, yet from other directions it looks like perfect grids with millions of rows. It even takes the shape of cubes, stacking the grids of tablets atop each other. The longer I try to make sense of these tablets, they begin to turn into the shape of time, emanating the reflections of strange laws, and I can start to map them to the galaxies in the true origin plane. These are the manifestations of the opposite side of the void where these galaxies affected space. Upon this realization, the shapes and orders become even more bizarre, creating fourth, fifth, sixth, and up to 11th dimensional objects and patterns that break all of the coherent ties to the linear visualization of the universe I came from. After a resolute mental blink, the tablets all return to the simple grid shape I perceived when I first entered this place. We start floating over the dead and cold tablets, and soon feel the presence of other movement inside this void beyond space. The outlines of long-limbed humanoid shadows indent reality in my vision, guiding me along in a certain direction. Unauthorized usage. This tale is on Amazon without the author's consent. Report any sightings. They are all void creepers. I don't know when they began appearing, or where they came from, but wherever I mentally probe, more shadows seep out from this abyss. There are no laws fluctuating on these creatures. No matter how hard I look into their beings, it appears as though time has never affected them. They have no past, and no future, even the present moment we're existing in now. None of them interact with the laws of the universe. If I weren't here to see them move, or be created from the void, there would be no proof these ever existed. Even Maria's in my mind are interacting in very strange ways with this place. I can feel that we did not break into it with strength or mental prowess alone. Something let us in as visitors, and there is a building pressure that will soon reject us out. Even our capacity to wield laws in this space is limited, like there is a shield around us only allowing us to observe. There may not be any proof we ever came either. Despite this chilling observation, we still drift alongside the many void creepers that wander through the dead stone tablets, moving toward a single point. There is no gravitational pull or fluctuation in the void that is tempting anyone to move this way. It is just an underlying inevitability that everything in this place knows. They must move forward to where they are meant to go. The moment I shift my thoughts from the journey to the destination, the trip across the void is already complete. I remember clearly how far we traveled, past every single tablet, and as I think back I return right to the spot on the way over like it hasn't happened yet. When I focus on the destination again, the passage of time and space moves forward once again, without completely letting my mind go. It is hard to comprehend how this space works. Life as I know it cannot exist in a plane devoid of mass, energy, or the linear passage of time, yet, I am capable of experiencing it with the parts of my immortal emperor's consciousness that have been pulled into the void creeper's true domain. I see the final tablet that all of the summoned void creepers are gathering to and floating around. It is the only tablet in this entire space that is lit up, shining a bright white light in the void. While it may not be actual color, it is emanating laws that trigger the opposite of darkness. This is the visualization of the reflection of life in the origin plane. this tablet's laws are all connected to the underside of the galaxy I come from. The void creepers do not move, nor do they make any noises. They all just gather around the last tablet that has not been extinguished, waiting for something. I try to take advantage of the rules in this place, and think about what they are waiting for. I try to peer into the future to see the end result, yet no visions come. Instead, an overwhelming pressure grabs onto every fiber of consciousness in this void and tears us out. Resistance is impossible. We have seen everything it wants us to see. Chapter 1088. When my mind is thrust out of the void creeper's domain, it does not fully disconnect. I still feel the access points to it beneath the fabric of everything in this universe. It feels like it is watching everything, like a perfect barrier wrapped around this universe holding reality within. Even though we were rejected, quickly my subconscious churns all of the available data and tries to make sense of why. It was not because I asked the wrong question or made a misstep. Instead, the answer can only be comprehended with the means before me. It cannot be currently seen within that place. Looking into the past and playing it back and forth like a god from above is a simple task. With a powerful enough mind and perception, deducing the patterns of reality as if they are real is easy, yet, considering the amount of power held within Maria and my bodies, we alone have the ability to shape this universe however we wish. Seeing into the future is not so simple. We were brought here because only we can decide the outcome ourselves. Our minds have grown even more resilient from diving into the true void creeper's domain. Now, peering through the membrane that surrounds this galaxy is as simple as looking through glass. The entire universe's past from its inception up to this very moment is laid bare before me. I can see everything. When I look at Ember again, I understand how he got here a little more, yet, when I look down at my blade, I still question him. I now see how it came to this. Our galaxy is truly the last one remaining. Everything you said to Noctis was the truth, but what does this have to do with my soul weapon? He nods, but still stares forward with indifference. Golden glyphs continue to churn slowly in his eyes, affecting all of the laws around us. This too will become clear with time. Though, the complete truth can only be seen once the system gathers enough energy to complete its final notification. That is when the great cycle can continue as it always does. There is a connection between his golden glyphs and the golden glyphs in the core of my blade, yet they both only act as bounce points. The true changes are happening within the fabric of reality, and it feels extremely slow. This tale has been unlawfully lifted from Royal Road. Report any instances of this story if found elsewhere. The active connection to Ember's mind grows dull, as though he's no longer interested in talking. He just stares off into the void and continues to slowly cycle the golden glyphs within his eyes. I start to digest his words while replaying the pasts of all the dead galaxies in the vastness of space. Some were extremely advanced, connecting thousands of galaxies together, even creating supercluster-wide civilizations before finding that they were within a membrane, even though Ember injected artificial amounts of ether into each seed of life to accelerate their growth cycles. Each time, they naturally ended up destroying themselves. Ember's search through their worlds and large energy collection centers never interfered much with the large-scale wars and extinctions that the races present brought upon themselves. He waited for the natural end of each galaxy's era to bring all of the collected ether to the next one. Many of the galaxies that were not yet altered, he placed pseudo-membranes around, made entirely out of flawless grade ether arrays with golden glyphs at their centers. They were placed around the most technologically advanced civilizations to create false reflections of the rest of the universe. To them, it appeared as though the stars still shined bright in every galaxy. And there was not an immortal golden dragon extinguishing them one by one. Each array was slightly different, but many had functions similar to enormous realm waves, slowing down the passage of time to preserve the life within them while systematic ether refinement takes place in all of the ones before. Billions of years have passed within each of the nearly 1 trillion galaxies with life in this universe, yet each one has been isolated within spaces of their own, only aging 13.8 billion years in total within the true origin plane. It is quite overwhelming to find out that we are really the only colony of life left, and we are the strongest forms of life that have ever emerged in this universe. As we are building off the backs of every other living being in existence, yet, it is still not enough to trigger the upgrade that is trying to manifest in my blade. When I look back at Ember's patient gaze and link this to the memories of him watching hundreds of billions of galaxies fade all alone, I realize that he is prepared to do it all over again. He is not indifferent because he feels no pressure to rush. He has just been through this process many times before and knows that the only thing left to do is wait. Maria and I both come to this conclusion too. and look at each other floating in the void with a mixture of concern, apprehension, and an underlying acceptance of reality. Yet, even in these few hours since we formed our silver cores, the rate at which the laws are adjusting and interacting with the system is slowing down. There is no longer such abundant chaotic energy to rush the cycle forward. The only way to force a trigger like that again would be to release all of the remaining energy from the upper and lower realms into the membrane. Yet, even thinking about doing that sends unnatural ripples through my consciousness. It would harm my mental foundation and mutate the system notification that is coming. The most natural and beneficial outcome is to wait. However, even if we died of old age and were born again over and over until the immortal cores rejected us, the fate of this galaxy would still have many eras left to go. In order for us to watch the aging and death of the last pocket of life in this universe beside this immortal golden dragon, we must isolate ourselves from its passage of time. Chapter 1089. Chapter 1089. The human part of my mind wants to wait longer and observe the life in the galaxy below at this slow and steady pace, yet, the perfect pattern recognition tethered to every law, particle, mass, and wisp of energy in the universe can tell exactly what would happen if I did so. Maria and I would die of old age over and over. In a matter of rebirths, we would be too weak to even make it outside of the upper realm's ceiling again. Every moment reminiscing is detrimental to the potential future. It does not take long for us to come to this logical conclusion. I focus on the soul ties bound to me, and with two outstretched hands I grab the entire collection of soul ties connected to the seal around the lower and upper realm. Maria holds her hands out and grabs on as well. Our immortal emperor forms both flicker in the membrane. Both our swords that look like a metallic river of fire, and an icy liquid mirror slowly rotate around our bodies as we are their central points of gravity. Large fluctuations of laws, pure red and blue emperor's essence, and system commands that interact with reality as perfected realm waves travel down into the isolated portion of the origin plane. There are no large-scale shockwaves or gravity fluctuations. Even the most powerful generals and commanders cannot feel the surge of power that surrounds and infuses with all of existence. It is as though nothing out of the ordinary is happening, yet, through my connection to the many spectate feeds, I see that time is beginning to speed up faster and faster. I think about the memories I absorbed from Noctis, as he attempted to create a fractured and imperfect version of what we're creating now. Mixed feelings rush through me, as I am almost doing exactly what I condemned him for. In just the first few seconds, a full decade in the origin plane passes by. It makes my heart made of silver threads and the condensed energy of the universe beat faster. The passing of time holding the memories of everyone's lives flickers through my eyes, and I can't help but send another drop of Emperor's essence down into the upper realm. A drop of icy blue essence follows, and we're greeted again by all of the prominent figures we met before. This essence dissolves back into the membrane, and with it, I feel the flow of radiation of pure ether coming off the outside of the origin plane seal. It is an extremely subtle white mix that enters the membrane. Most of it travels up the soul ties that tether us to the life of this galaxy. Larger amounts of this ether travel up and assimilate with our immortal forms when someone dies in the upper or lower realm. Whether that is from facing old age, battles within dungeons, wars over planets, or even smaller disputes over counties or states on worlds, every death releases an incredibly small amount of flawless grade ether that is siphoned out of the origin plane. The majority of the energy dissolves back into the origin plane for future eras to manipulate and use, but an almost untraceable amount makes its way out into the membrane where we reside. Every small particle of ether that flows up these invisible streams and assimilates with our forms makes the laws beneath the system fluctuate closer to the last bottleneck they're attempting to break through, just as I'm digesting the memories of my avatar's second return. 100 years pass by again. The passage of time is speeding up as we pull harder. I feel the need to inject another drop of Emperor's essence down into the upper realm to physically check in again. This time, all of the leaders and later generations feel more and more detached. They are all aging at a rapid rate, and the infrastructure throughout the lower and upper realms becomes more intricate and crowded. The dungeon technology becomes more and more advanced, allowing for some to train pure mana control, craftsmanship, glyph weaving, and many other skills than just pure mana-based leveling. Far more skills and unique system paths are summoned into existence throughout the entire construct. And the families of the commanders and generals cement their roots into the lower realm and green zone as the true elites that manage the new era's growth in the shadows. Chapter 1090. As we pull harder on the soul ties connected to the outside of the galaxy-wide ether construct, the passage of time moves along faster and faster. Every single being in the lower and upper realm ages, and no matter how many drops of Emperor's essence I let fall into the origin plane to reconnect, we only drift further apart. the threshold of human lifespan draws near for many of the generals, commanders, knights, and admins. There are already familiar faces from the human world that decided not to make the journey to the upper realm who have passed away. Just like all of the other life forms in this galaxy, microscopic particles of flawless great ether float off their dissipating souls and are added to the red and blue immortal forms floating in the membrane. Some of the less powerful descendants of Fisher and Lydia in the lower realm have already succumbed to old age, while others watch as their family trees push past 20 generations. The purple cord water and ice-wielding patriarch and matriarch appear very aged, coded into the DNA of humans. No matter the strength of their cores, level, or mana control potency, there seems to be a hard limit on the years their essence connected to the system can remain in the origin plane. They are both nearing the 800-year mark, and their wavering life force is very noticeable. Not only them, but Bree, Rodrigo, Monk, Luna, and all of the knights too. They have all reached the end of the natural line. Average citizens of the galaxy, even direct blood descendants of these prominent figures, almost face their fate. However, those that made great contributions before the final war have the opportunity to undergo a forbidden legacy that has been erased from the records of the purple zone of the upper realm. One of my Emperor's Essence avatars watches as Rin leads this small group of aged individuals through the private fast travel pathways Abby has created to bring them to a hidden domain far out beyond the outer settlements in the purple zone. It is where Rin and Ember hid from Marcellus long ago. This is where, one by one, those on the verge of death undergo their ascension, relinquishing their right to ever level up using the system again, even dissipating their divine cores. They emerge as pure white ethereal beings made almost entirely of high-quality ether. They are held together by a few flawless great ether glyphs at their cores that hold their consciousness and vital wisps of their soul inside, with an additional illusionary and protective sealing legacy granted by Abby once they leave this hidden domain. Their appearance is a replica of what they look like in their younger years. It is a shell, as beneath there is only white ethereal mist and glyphs. They have maintained their peak strength but can no longer progress further. However, any ether expended from these ascended bodies shall never reattach to their artificial soul cores either. When I scan each of these prestigious beings heading back to their homes, their temperament has shifted once again. It is as though they have completely fulfilled their life's duty and can now rest in peace to watch from the background. They speak and act as though they are still the same. However, Maria and I can see the truth. The laws fluctuating within these ethereal forms only show echoes of what they were. It is as though I'm watching dead people return to their old homes in the upper and lower realm. This is just a far less extreme version of the life-preserving technique Noctis used upon his demise. The soul tie array that encapsulated his being has been recreated on a smaller scale. Just from watching the fluctuating laws, I can predict the future of these ethereal bodies, and I'm certain they will not last forever. Yet, I will not interfere in their endeavors to live on and grasp a taste of immortality on their own terms. My avatar returns to the void, and hundreds more years pass. Even Ari and Raven, despite being far more full of vitality and the primordial essence of ancient races blended with their souls, cannot breach 1,000 years before their natural end nears. Rin brings them to the same hidden domain. And the ethereal archer and dual-bladed swordswoman return to the green zone to watch over their 26 generations of progeny and retire into the shadows. Time passes by faster and faster as we pull another 1,000 years from the origin plane. Even Ava must resort to ascension, as goblins have shortened lifespans too. Asik, the High Orc warlord, is the first of their group to reach his natural end, qualifying as a suitable applicant for ascension and returning to the Ellipsia Citadel. As an ethereal white body next, these ethereal bodies are not as perfect as they seem. As another 10,000 years fly by, those that opted to live on feel that any large-scale or excessive movements deplete their remaining life force. The flawless great ether arrays that hold their souls intact slowly dissipate into the membrane every time there is any amount of stress placed on them. Even using fast travel pathways slowly depletes these vessels, while not noticeable within a year, or decade, or even a century. As these beings get used to the longer passage of time, they begin to shift their perspectives. Hundreds of generations of their offspring have begun to settle as undisputed rulers of their domains. More and more enormous artificial ports are formed in the lower realm. Not only abandoned noble grade worlds and their stars are being used as fuel, now even first and second grade worlds that have been sold off are being harvested to create consolidated civilizations. The green zone's real estate has become even more demanding. Extremely tall towers fill the entire zone. There are no longer unused areas of land far away from citadels. The cyan and blue zones are almost unchanged, as infrastructure already filled this entire zone and planned for the eventual expansion and storage of all the remaining energy in the galaxy if needed. when I summon a drop of Emperor's Essence back into the upper realm to do my usual checkups. This time I return to the purple zone once again. It has been a few thousand years since I last visited. I appear before the sparkling green figure of Abby, covered in ancient green glyphs, somehow still holding onto her original human flesh. She has defied the rules of this system and outlasted the normal peak lifespan of our race by over 15 times. Chapter 1091. As I decipher the rich green glyphs etched into Abby's human flesh, their utility becomes very clear. Ember's past words calling her energy form, the immortal healer's body, were not a play on words. Deep within her unique cultivation chamber, Abby harnesses the power of the strongest advanced primordial aura in the upper realm, combined with her deep green soul energy enhanced with flawless great ether, high royal vibrations, and the sole remaining legacy of dryads left behind by a past overseer. She is the most powerful being left in the origin plane. Even all of the peak strength of warlords and generals left behind do not amount to 1/10,000th of her power. Every year that passes, the gap widens. I do not want to interrupt her peaceful slumber, as it will only be harmful for the sake of a meaningless check-in. The glyphs that tether her soul, body, divine energy forms, ether-based energy forms, and primordial essence together, they are all fully infused with her unique skill, the ability to restore all mana-based lifeforms back to their natural state. She has placed herself into a state of perfect cultivation. As long as she does not awaken and use her active mind and present soul, she can remain in this state almost indefinitely. Her subconscious still activates the enforcement team that watches over the purple zone, and all of the preset fast travel streams have already been optimized thousands of times over the last few millennia. There is no longer any need to change them. In fact, they have become so deeply rooted in her primordial tree manifestation that when citizens pay with ether to use this system to and from any fixed port, this raw ether is cycled through as though it is her own energy pathways. Her soul and body do not age, yet her energy control continues to rise in efficiency. Another 50,000 years pass in an instant, and drops of red and blue Emperor's essence still fall down into the origin plane to curiously watch the passage of time. The lower realm's consolidation of energy has become very widespread. Almost all of the abandoned stars from first and second class worlds have been claimed and added to enormous artifact ion ports at the convergence of large ether pathways. Many of the races that are being born in this new era have even begun resorting to third-class worlds to build their own artificial solar systems. In the Green Zone, even Torvak, Zashin, and the White Griffin that watches over the Grand Citadel reach the end of their natural lives, resorting to the Ascension ritual and returning as ethereal avatars to live out their days as white shadows. The unique constitution of the Wyvern race is one that has been augmented 2 times in their history. Within the origin plane, its first instance was the interference of Ember during a few of his many attempts to reach the higher zones of the upper realm nearing the end of the Demon's era. Their race was never meant to rise in prominence the way it did. They were destined to stay as a lizard race, some bright green like emeralds, others a deep blue, some fiery red, and the rare few an ethereal white, yet their bloodlines were altered by Ember in order to gain a foothold as a last resort station within the Fortress Citadel's legacy chambers, granting them lifespans countless times longer than their old bloodline's limitations. When I stare deep into the slumbering blue wyvern at the center of the upper realm, I can see the exact point in history when these very laws of the origin plane were shifted to create such an anomaly. The vast majority of these wyverns never managed to make use of the rare gift, as they were ruthlessly hunted down by demons until they were almost made extinct. Seraphel, as the last remaining remnant of this race, went through another bloodline mutation when he bound his fate to the immortal healer. As long as Abby's perfect state of harmonization is not disrupted, Seraphel is capable of maintaining a deep sleep while activating his innate water-infused advanced primordial body. This ancient being's rate of aging slows down at a profound rate, defying the rules of the natural order of the system almost as drastically as Abby. Yet, as another 250,000 years pass, I watch the plumes of white mist of flawless great ether flowing off the countless lifeforms that are born and die in the relentless cycle of passing time. There is even a faint residue that radiates off all of the ascended ethereal forms in their dormant states. All of this essence inevitably falls back into the membrane to reunite with the immortal emperors that watch from above. Chapter 1092. As the new eras move by, the exploration of the lower realm reaches its natural limits. Even 4th and 5th grade worlds, with weak red and orange suns, are beginning to be sold off and consolidated into artificial ports connected to the main ether pathway channels. They begin classifying them as tiered galactic megastructures. To enter the recognized rankings, a port has to be powered by at least 100 red stars and the ether, and mana residue from at least 100 of their connected 5th grade worlds. These are lower C-tier civilization ports. Any megastructure with 4th grade stars and worlds in their structures are still only upper C-tier civilization ports. There are millions of these enormous structures already built. Many of the less intelligent or less naturally powerful races work together and construct one of these structures to gain access to voting rights in the Galactic Trade Commission meetings held every century, held by Alvaron and a board of voted chairmen. In the current era, these are the consolidated ports that are being built rapidly, multiple per day all throughout the vast origin plane. This is the minimum threshold to acquire private ascension pathways up to the Green Zone, and corresponding bases in the upper realm to establish their own factions not completely overseen by the Emperor's Guard, as the amount of natural worlds left in the lower realm dwindles. Many of these smaller collections of worlds and ancient alliances must use the preset pathways and guidelines constructed by Abi long ago. The few 100,000 or so lower and upper B-tier civilizations are mostly older crafts, created over 50,000 years ago when 3rd and 2nd grade worlds and their corresponding orange and dark yellow stars were still freely traded without the pressure for consolidation. To be classified as such, the megastructures must have at least 50 3rd grade star and planet material for lower, and 50 2nd star and planet materials for an upper B-tier classification. Many of the lower B-tier structures are far larger than they need to be, adding expansion ports with hundreds of 4th and 5th grade stars and planets. If the populations grow large enough, they can apply to be classified as middle-grade B-tier civilizations, only by an on-site inspection from one of the Emperor's Guard. In the current era, expansion of these larger structures is far more common, and there are many more unique classifications being produced to promote more growth in the ancient clans, as almost all of the higher-grade worlds have been privately collected. It is impossible to improve their standing any other way. A-tier civilizations are extremely rare. The last one constructed was by the ogre races over 150,000 years ago. In total, there are only a few thousand of these ports. They are mostly all owned by the descendants and loyal working partners of the powerful admins. Warlords, knights, commanders, and generals. Any megastructure that is crafted with over 25 1st grade star and planet remnants is classified as A-tier. Some even have over 100 bright yellow stars powering their single galactic bases. There are no other classifications within this tier, as all of the powerful factions that own them are loyal to a very small group of leaders. They all follow orders from the 2 S-tier civilizations. One is an extremely private and secret galactic port run solely by the descendants of Fisher and Lydia. The other is where Alvaron still works, and where Bree's ascended ethereal avatar sits dormant at the megastructure's very core. The home base of the admins is far larger, and is even available to the general public of the lower realm to visit and rent space to establish factions in the central hub. These are the only 2 galactic civilizations that use pure white suns and noble grade world remnants to power their structures. Each one has added tens of thousands of suns and worlds to their structures and added hundreds of ether pathway points after the fact that lead to the upper realm. In the initial stages of building these consolidated structures, it was quite chaotic. Yet now, there have been many generations that have been born and died over and over again while these systems are already in place. This new era no longer has deep areas of unknown and unexplored deep space. Technology has advanced to the point where many children learn to control pure ether and mana at young ages before they're even old enough to connect to the system. There are full dictionaries for every ancient language, and the corresponding glyphs and array patterns. Many plan out their journeys through the system before they even mentally hear their first notification. It is no longer necessary to start on small planets in deep space. Full races have migrated upward to settle in the vast zones of the upper realms. Some races are born in the upper realm. This bends and mutates the rules of the system even further, granting divine bodies as a natural buff the instant a system is awakened. There are even instances of natural sacred bodies for extremely powerful races born in areas where high-quality glyphs are abundant. A single large tower in the cyan and blue zones can fit millions of solar systems worth of space inside them. In the purple zone of the upper realm, some of the largest private domains are even spacious enough to fit the entire cyan and blue zones combined inside them. The bent space that rests atop the origin plane holds far more opportunities, and even raw storage space, than the entire galaxy down below. Even as the population of links of loyalty swells to hundreds of times higher than it did after the end of the Demon's era, there is no lack of space for the newer generations to strive in. However, with every single planet already connected to the system, there are no new races that pop up out of nowhere. The known factions, bases of power, large businesses, technology, and distribution of general authority throughout the citizens of the origin plane are set in stone, with ethereal ascended ancestors resting dormant behind the major forces of every known zone. and the presence of an untouchable dryad goddess in the purple zone wielding an army made out of her subconscious avatars. The possibility of rogue factions attempting to disrupt the power balance is basically zero, as this new era takes shape, and more flawless great ether continues to lightly flow out from the life within the origin realm. I start to feel a very odd sensation trickling into my mind. The extremely potent notification linked to my sword is continuing to rise to the surface of my system, yet I start to feel small gears turning or even bubbles of resistance popping beneath its surface. Each one of these triggers light bells in my ears that sound like level up pings. After the millions of these I heard after killing Noctis, I began to push them out of my active mind. With access to all of the raw energy in the universe, and the availability of system stats of every living link of loyalty, my own level's significance has mattered less and less, yet, as time is being pulled away from the origin plane at a faster rate, the frequency of these level up notifications speeds up too. A wave of confusion washes through me as I realize I'm somehow gaining experience from somewhere unrelated to Noctis' demise. When I dive deep into the laws beneath the system that are triggering these minor pings, I see they are coming from two sources. The first is a mutated perk of the primordial grade plunderer skill, passively gaining experience from any energy that I absorb into my body. The second is a new function of the immortal emperor's domain. Once I claim this galaxy, every living being that dies within grants me their experience as though it was my own kill. Chapter 1093. The rising levels are slow, as the living beings that die in the lower and upper realm are often below level 1,000. There are a few notable figures in the tens and hundreds of thousands that raise the averages, but this is not the bulk of the common citizens that pass away. The population of Link system users has grown to reach over 1 septillion individuals. While the average lifespan of lesser races is kept between 100 and 1,000 years, some of the more advanced ancient races have natural lifespans in the tens of thousands. Even for those that do not ascend to the upper realm, even as the population grows, there are still hundreds of quintillions of natural deaths every year. My level is well over 6 million, and gaining the experience points from one of these deaths does not amount to much. Yet, their collective experience does start to add up. When the hundreds of thousands of years that pass by stack upon this equation, it becomes noticeable. I'm actually leveling up at quite the rapid rate as time flies by. The harder I pull on the soul ties of the origin plane, the passage of time compared to my internal consciousness exponentially separates. A full million years pass by the time Maria and I let another drop of Emperor's essence fall into the construct again. We return right back to the cultivation chamber where Abby continuously restores her mortal body. The essence of life from thousands of generations has coursed through her primordial tree's ether pathways, and her energy control has ascended to a height that cannot be comprehended by any living being in the current galaxy. It has reached a level millions of times stronger than any of the generals or commanders' ethereal avatars left behind. Unlike these ascended avatars, Abby is still alive and connected to the system. Even if she dared to exert every last strand of energy within her being, she would be able to heal and absorb it back slowly over time. For those that have sacrificed their worldly attachments to ascend, they do not have this luxury. They are confined as hidden weapons that are slowly succumbing to the passage of time. I am beginning to understand how you two perceive this place, though I can never claim to fully comprehend it. The difference between us still must be extraordinarily vast. I cannot even sense a weakness left in the upper realm's construct seal. The beyond must be even more profound. These words echo through the chamber as Abby opens her eyes and greets us. All three of us have the mental capacity to perceive every particle and lifeform in the upper and lower realms. Recently, even the demon race's sole representative, Pluto, has reached his natural end. Even as a fully realized true purple cord demon, he was born a commoner, and over 1 million years of life is an incredibly impressive feat. Ren brought him to the Ascension Chamber, but his sacrifice was slightly different than the normal mana-based lifeforms that went through a similar procedure. While leaving behind his mortal flesh, system levels, and even demonic energy, he had to sacrifice his bonded dragon as well. The demonic earth dragon transformed into pure ethereal glyphs and became a part of the arrays holding his soul together. It is a similar sight to the ascended demons I encountered long ago when I first invaded the Imperial Run Purple Zone. There are many generations of demons that do not hold divine cores, or came from commoner bloodlines, that have already passed on. These last 1.3 million years since the end of the demonic era. Many of them dissolve back into the origin plane and leave behind raw demonic energy for their descendants to use to grow. Yet, as the existence of thrones and labyrinths have been discontinued, so have the mass production and bonding rates of new dragons. The system itself has mutated once again, no longer spawning these mana-based manifestations to pair with this race. It is an old piece of data that has served its purpose and no longer needs to continue running. Unlike the prospering mana-based races, the demonic population is slowly declining. Pluto's ascended ethereal avatar still sits meditating in their most expansive temples, keeping the remnants of the rebellious past in line. The rest of the galaxy thrives. Alvaron is a unique ancient lifeform that already lived for millions of years before the end of the demon's era. The creature's mind's growth has stagnated, it is no longer in its prime but does not show any signs of aging or dying soon. The loyal monster maintains the functions of the worldwide connectivity system and the Galactic Trade Commission without fail. It is a completely neutral party that makes sure everyone below the immortal healer and the emperors above all follow the rules without question. There are no longer any unexplored worlds left in the lower realm. All of the fast travel ether pathways have been consolidated and aligned to C-tier and above civilization ports. These enormous hubs are so large that many lifeforms born on them never even travel across the entire port in their whole lives. The technology has grown so advanced that rented living chambers are so indistinguishable from reality that some clans build entire simulated worlds within and live out their days inside. Purchasing solely pure mana-based constructs is the cheapest, while adding levels of divine threads or varying ether purities to these artificial worlds costs more and more. This is taking place even in the lowest-tiered red star-powered 5th-class civilizations. In many of the ancient A-tier megaports, they have built them so large over the passage of 1,000,000 years that a few are over a full light-year in width. They fill these structures with pure yellow divine threads and low-quality ether, creating miniature pocket world constructs as though they are minor layers of the upper realm below the green zone. As Maria, Abby, and I all scan through these new developments in the galaxy, we see the truth that those living within cannot. All of the pure energy in this galaxy is slowly slipping out of the untraceable cracks and reconnecting with the membrane. This is the peak of technology and civilization as we know it, the final bright flicker of the candle before the decline. Chapter 1094, Abby closes her eyes again and returns to her isolated cultivation. Maria and I fade back to our real bodies, and the passage of time begins to burst by again. My hands feel hot as I tug on the septillion soul ties connected to them, and they even glow bright white. Visibly flashing in the dark membrane is some snap and more form. As life has passed away and brought into existence over and over again, another 100 million years pass by, and the clouds of raw, flawless grade ether that surge into the membrane are an immense amount. I watch my system level surge upward past LV 7 million, then even fly by LV 7,500,000. In the same instant, it slows once the bright flash of flawless grade ether settles in my immortal Emperor's form, and I let another drop of essence down into the origin plane. My assumptions during the last visit have become a reality. There have been no large-scale industrial eras moving energy around like the first 1 million years of the Golden Era. Instead, there has been a slow decline. All of the 5th-class civilizations that made up the bulk of C-tier megaports have slowly run out of energy to prosper in. The natural lifespan of these stars that continuously spew out power has its limits. Some are burned out in just a few million years, while the more substantial ones last a few tens of millions. Yet, now when I return, I see countless abandoned galactic ports where quadrillions of links of loyalty once lived. The echoes and fluctuating laws of lifeforms that used to live there are fresh in the fabric of reality. I can see where many migrated to, finding new lives in the larger B-tier civilizations. However, this all happened long ago. The general contention for unaffiliated races or newer clans without ancient backing is to make their way up to the cyan and blue zones. This is where cheap energy is still available for the average citizen. Scanning the dead and cold fragments of planets and stars left behind is quite eerie, as beyond the membrane, in many other galaxies, I can see almost exactly the same thing. When we appear in Abby's chamber, there is a distinct difference this time. The sturdy glyphs that hold her body and soul together have extremely small clouds of white and green fog hovering around their edges. When we appear within the room, they dissipate, but from analyzing the laws around them I can tell Abby has not moved a finger for over 25 million years. This gentle mist is stagnant residue coming off of her cultivation, manifesting the minuscule imperfections that build up over time. She opens her eyes, and without having to say a word, can feel the passage of time too. It is not much, but when thinking about the scope of eternity, it is a jarring realization to behold. When all three of our minds push down through the many zones in lower realm, we see into the chambers of our past allies, those that have been in a similar dormant state. In their ethereal ascended forms, the clouds of ether that continuously build up in their isolated chambers are immense. So much so that automatic filtering systems need to clear them out every million years or so. The generals, commanders, knights, admins, warlord, and notable allies have all gotten to witness their kin prosper and sacrifice to maintain peace among the peak of the current era. Now, without even having to act, their strengths have all fallen by a noticeable degree. Many of the less talented knights have dwindled by more than 90% away. The admins and commanders are at less than 50% of their peak. Even Ari, Ava, and Raven have dropped in strength by 30%. They have all come to realize their true natural ends are inevitable. Even Alvaron's mental capacities have begun to slow down. Over the last 100 million years, the loyal creature has created an army of over 99 trillion avatars made of silver armor. Each one acts as a node and maintains the laws of the Upper and Lower Realms Galactic Trade Commission. Only Abby and Seraphel have the true override permissions, while a voting system among the A and B tier civilizations Galactic Trade Commission representatives appoints revolving leaders every century to decide on more mundane tasks. It too feels the passage of time, and during this visit to the origin plane, I get to witness the ancient mind flayer go through the ascension process and relinquish its ties to the system. Unlike the others who go into closed cultivation to wait out their days as long as possible, Alvaron chooses to slowly travel through the many dead civilizations of the lower realm and admire the past. It will rapidly consume his ascended avatar's limited lifespan, but the monster is fulfilled and resolute on spending its retirement in this way. Chapter 1095. Despite the lower-tiered civilizations losing their energy sources and dying out in the lower realm, the upper realm has become far more lively. In fact, the population of living links of loyalty has risen to over 50 septillion. The majority of life resides in the cyan, blue, and purple zones, where there is abundant space and relatively cheap energy for those that desire to live within spatial constructs. The dungeon technology has become so advanced that every single room within the enormous blue and cyan towers has been altered into its own vast world. The size of entire solar systems down in the lower realm, many of the storage towers that held ancient races' energy stores of pure mana and ether are slowly beginning to be drained, as hundreds of thousands of generations of life pass by and consume the legacies left behind. Even the domains in the outer settlements of the purple zone are completely altered, turning into privately owned constructs with far more space within them than there is within the upper realm. Each one creates pockets of space identical to high-tech dungeons, allowing for lower-strength lifeforms to live within them. Each purple zone domain can be separated into smaller mana constructs to comply with red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, and blue cord lifeforms. There are even settings to allow for life without divine threads, or pure ether constructs for extended storage or special training. Within the compacted and bent space of the purple zone, housing this technology is very simple. Yet, it uses up immense amounts of flawless grade ether in the long run. Almost a full billion years pass by the time I return with Maria to explore again. By now, all of the 4th grade orange suns and C-tier civilizations are completely cold and dead. The majority of lower B-tier civilizations have faced the same fate. The less powerful yellow stars of 3rd grade worlds have been artificially consumed. And even some of the 2nd grade worlds and stars that have been overextended have begun to run dry too. The only megaports that continue to shine bright in the lower realm are the ancient A-tier civilizations tethered to the strongest ether pathways up to the upper realm. This tale has been unlawfully lifted from Royal Road. If you spot it on Amazon, please report it. For the first time since the beginning of this golden era, the overall population of lifeforms connected to the system has become stagnant. It topped out and plateaued a few 100 million years ago at 400 septillion links of loyalty. This is because all of the independent clans, races, and factions have been pushed up into the upper realm to live within simulated worlds. At first, they prospered and grew within the confines of a new, growing technological era. There are still trading systems that mutated and linked each of these artificial worlds together. Glyph-based teleportation arrays allow simulated copies of information or even full lifeforms to traverse between each of these constructs. Reality as it was in the lower realm is gone, and a new era of virtual trading has begun. Information, higher quality ether arrays, and the transfer of general energy control techniques are the most sought-after currencies. The vast distances between the zones are no longer necessary to travel with the old primordial trees ether pathways. A brand new system has been introduced. One that took a full year off Abby and Seraphel's lifespan to create when they came out of isolation to build it over 800 million years prior. All lifeforms are more connected than they have ever been, and the flow of energy between them is a constant. Abby's energy control has rapidly increased, but Maria and I are the only lifeforms capable of admiring or understanding her efforts. Many of the legacy systems left behind by Alvaron are still being used. The loyal monster has faded away and spread ethereal dust into the lower realm long ago. A majority of it has been farmed by the A-tier civilization's automatic exploration arrays, while some reconnected with the primordial tree's roots. In the end, it all filters through living beings, and fragments of it are lost upon their deaths. Enormous white clouds of flawless great ether pour out of this construct and into the membrane, making their way into our immortal bodies as they always do. My level surges past LV 8 million, and then even ticks past LV 8,500,000, as the amount of experience I'm gaining from the sextillions of deaths every year is adding up fast. All of the admins, knights, commanders, warlords, and loyalists during the demonic era have completely faded away back into the membrane. Their legacies are inscribed many times over in unbreakable stone and flawless grade glyphs deep within the ravine. And at the cores of the S-tier galactic ports, even Ari, Raven, and Ava, the generals that ascended long ago, have fallen to less than 1% of their peak strength. Their wills are far stronger than any others in this galaxy, but even they, after a billion years of watching their galaxy move on, must succumb to the relentless passage of time. Abby, Seraphel, Maria, and I see them off in person. It is a relief for all involved to watch their indomitable grip on reality finally be let loose into the vastness of space. I feel their refined flawless grade ether trickle back into the membrane and become one with our Emperor's forms. Chapter 1096, From above in the membrane, it feels like only a matter of seconds have passed. The harder we pull, the faster time is ripped away from all of the life left in this galaxy. The enormous amount of ether flowing into my physical form and sea of consciousness has made everything even more effortless. Moments ago I still had to use parts of my active mind to see through the membrane. Now it just feels like another remnant left in this underwhelming universe. I can see and feel everything without even straining my senses. The 96 billion light-years of space is easily observable, and even plunging portions of my mind into the void creeper's domain surrounding us is no longer a high-energy demanding monumental task. I can allow portions of my consciousness to rest within that strange space, and view the last glowing tablet that shines even brighter now with the many void creepers that have come to watch. Every few billion years that go by within the upper and lower realm, I send another drop of Emperor's essence down inside to see through my avatar with mortal eyes. The slow decline of the bright yellow and white stars is an extremely long process. It takes some of the B-tier civilizations over 5 billion years to fully burn out, and another 10 billion or so for the majority of the strongest first-grade world stars and resources to be fully consumed. The lower realm has become almost entirely cold and dark. There are only a few dozen ancient A-tier megaports that have consolidated and concealed their remaining energy within advanced ether constructs to preserve their remaining stars. The high-density white stars from noble grade worlds used in the only two S-tier civilizations have significantly dimmed, but they show no signs of burning out. One is located near the center of the galaxy, the port run by the Galactic Trade Commission, open to all races and factions. The other still holds its human roots of Fisher and Lydia's offspring as their elites, even preserving the origin world of the Emperor in one of the private containment chambers. However, now, even on the last remnants of the lower realm, the majority of living beings that live here are guards or maintenance workers. Over 99.99% of the current links of loyalty have all migrated to the upper realm. The population stayed quite consistent for a while, but during the last few billion years, there has finally been a sharp and noticeable drop. This is because all of the built-up storage towers in the cyan and blue zones have been slowly depleted. Almost everyone that resides in the upper realm lives out their whole lives within their virtual constructs. Doing so is far less energy exhausting than the bloated population living within the raw space of the upper realm. However, with so many lifeforms being born and dying over such a massive scale of time, their energy is slowly siphoned out of the origin plane. It is mostly exhausted as pure flawless grade ether that continuously fuels Maria and I as we watch the natural progression of life begin to decline. In the blink of an eye, we have witnessed more time pass than the total of every Overseer's eras in this galaxy combined. Our linked levels pass LV 9 million. Just as we send another drop of Emperor's essence down into the upper realm, the population has fallen back down to about 1 septillion souls remaining. There are no famines or extreme energy shortages visible on the surface, but I can see deep into every storage tower. The slow rise in prices, less availability for true core compressions, and even a decline in opportunity for some of the purple zone's legacies that require large amounts of higher purity ether to obtain. These are all small signs that the peak of this galaxy's strength has come and gone. the drive for endless expansion into the unknown is over, even with the virtual constructs that many races live in. As every generation passes by, they opt for more cost-efficient models, lessening the amount of divine threads, ether, and even mana density within their home. Dungeon constructs. When I see Abby open her eyes again, thick plumes of green and white fog drift off of her ancient legacy. She wakes up every few million years to check on the running systems and reconfigure all of the ether pathways. This energy expenditure has compounded over time, continuously taking a few years in total off her life as time passes, yet, I can even see that her dormant state has become harder and harder to maintain. There is only so much a mortal lifeform can withstand. I witnessed the slow fading process with every ascended lifeform in the past, and Abby has too. Maria and I do not say a word about it, but the three of us know that the reality of this immortal healer's aging is imminent after this visit. When we dissolve back into the membrane and pull the origin plane as we have before, the many bright soul ties dwindle and snap at a much faster rate than they regrow. Chapter 1097, we drop back into the upper realm after another 25 billion years have passed. Then again after another 75 billion, gradually, every single A-tier civilization goes dark, and many of the outer layers of the only two remaining S-tier megaports have their energy stores used up. Only the very contained cores of each civilization connected directly to the ether pathways stay running, on a power-efficient mode using only a handful of white stars for sustenance. The remaining life in the lower realm is entirely surveillance and maintenance teams. Even the artificial dungeon realms made of low-quality ether, mana, and yellow divine threads have become too costly to be used. The fabric of the origin plane is much less predictable and stable than the artificial and consolidated bent space in the upper realm. It is far more energy efficient to make the trip up and live out the rest of a race's existence within a single floor of the cyan zone. Even the green zone's infrastructure and population have become almost entirely maintenance workers, ancient glyphs, and arrays from billions of years ago holding the pathways together, and crowded housing that fills the entire compact zone, echoing with the legacies of ancient races left behind, instead of demolishing and rebuilding many of the ancient towers. A large amount of the green zone's infrastructure has been preserved with long-term arrays similar to the fortress. There are tombs and scriptures left behind in each one, with the ancestral records of every faction or clan that lived there. This has begun to occur because a gradual extinction of many races naturally takes place, with no mysterious explorations or grand aspirations for future generations to achieve. The birth rate and even the average strength of many citizens in the lower zones start to drop. Many races live within their simulated worlds and let the elders of their races decide whether or not to tell the younger generations that there is an entire upper realm outside. The clans that do so tend to last longer, as they have created a purpose to live on. Yet even they slowly use up their remaining energy as time continues on. Each race reaches a point where they cannot even afford the lowest density of mana-based constructs, and their kin barely reach level 100 in their lifetimes. This significantly lowers their life expectancy as generations pass by. Unlawfully taken from Royal Road, this story should be reported if seen on Amazon. Every few billion years, the population is drastically slashed. By the time I return, there are no more than 500 quintillion lifeforms left in this galaxy. I already know what has occurred, as the sheer amount of snapping soul ties and the surge of pure, flawless great ether directly into my soul have pushed my level past LV 9,500,000. However, looking at it through the eyes of the small humanoid shell I used to walk this realm with feels different. Abby opens her eyes to look up at us, and she has noticeable wrinkles on her face as the heavy clouds of stagnant green and white fog are filtered out of her chamber. When she stands up, a flash of light blue water magic fluctuates next to her in the room. An old man with blue hair and sharp eyes looks at me with a kind smile, and they both bow their heads ever so slightly. Abby raises her head and speaks first. It will soon be our time to become one with our creation. You have allowed for life to prosper 100 billion years longer than it ever would have, and we are honored to have watched and lent a hand. Seraphel looks me in the eyes next. It has always been an honor to serve the Emperor, the bonded race of the Fallen One. He who elevated my race to become a greater part of history. We will sacrifice our remaining power just as you have for us. May life prosper on in the upper realm, and forever longer after the great cycle. When the last blue wyvern and the immortal healer hold hands, I watch the laws fluctuating around their bodies and realize that they have truly lived beyond their mortal limits. The fluctuating laws do not only resonate in their tiny human forms but instead through the entire ancient primordial tree that has indented itself into the fabric of the origin plane. As the longest overseer's era has passed, they have no reason or desire to relinquish their ties with the system and become ascended avatars. Instead, the two ancient lifeforms disappear from this cultivation chamber, and all of the ether pathways and features left behind by the pair undergo a final reconfiguration. These two high royal vibrations wielding advanced primordial aura beings are leaving behind a final legacy. Chapter 1098. The pure and consolidated unique ancient glyphs that have been refined to perfection after over 100 billion years are now being imprinted back into the very ether pathways that nurtured them. All of the tree's roots that wrap around the lower realm become more robust and shimmer with green and blue glyphs. The entire ether pathways glow bright white with the vitality that they did tens of billions of years ago. Even the sturdy trunk of the tree within the upper realm, and the long branches and leaves in the purple zone that house many of the domains of the most prominent races in this era, a hot and soul-nourishing wave of ether flows outward to fill every zone of the upper realm, perfectly coinciding with the release of flawless great ether out into the membrane to flow back into Maria and my main forms. These are the most extreme soul tie deaths we have ever felt. They alone are releasing an equivalent amount of ether that the last few billion years' worth of deaths have granted us. There is also a noticeable fluctuation of laws that bend the fabric of space throughout this release of ether. It is directly affecting every single life form that it manages to pass through, instantly healing every link of loyalty of their ailments, restoring them to their peak condition, and even raising their natural talents. The residual laws of the immortal healer and the last blue wyvern are being left behind in far more ways than one. The entire construct surrounding the origin plane quivers, and even the fabric of the membrane ripples as though it is paying its respect to a pair of mortal lifeforms that have made it this far. The bends in space where the primordial tree of life has made its home within the origin plane grow deeper, as this last burst of strength has permanently altered minor laws of reality. It reminds me of when Maria and I formed our immortal cores, withstanding the explosive nature of rippling laws being altered and adapted to our minds, bodies, and souls. Of course, this was an immense event, with one single ripple being millions of times greater than what has transpired before us here right now, yet, they have not just lived out their lives within the natural means and rules that were provided. Without a doubt, they have subtly altered the true laws of the entire universe in their own way. Our avatars made of Emperor's essence fade back into the membrane in order for this process to finish in its natural manner. We pull on the remaining soul ties as more white mist seeps out of the construct. And watch from afar, this whole reaction vibrates in the depths of my mind, bringing with it a strange collection of memories that I have already sorted in my immortal mind palace in the past. They are memories that I have seen quite a few times before, linked directly to my sword. This faint ripple in the laws, created by beings that are not past wielders, has been recorded and sorted already. I did not realize their full significance until now. Their remnants are not only memories passed on to me in my mind, there is real physical proof of their existence meticulously stored away deep within the ravine below the cyan zone. They coincide with the artifacts I once scanned and came to the conclusion that they were not from this universe. They were artifacts somehow brought along from past iterations of this sword and wielder's life. My eyes widen in the membrane, and I release another drop of Emperor's essence to plunge an avatar back into the upper realm, as the red drop of energy manifests beside Maria's mirror-like icy form deep within the dark passageways of the ravine's data collection caves. The passage of time is extremely noticeable. It was only a matter of seconds that flew by in the membrane since Abby and Seraphel's passing, but a full trillion years has just been ripped away from the origin plane, and the remains look almost unrecognizable. Chapter 1099. The lower realm has gone almost entirely dark. A full trillion years has passed, and the XDthere civilizations have used up all of the remaining power in their noble great worlds and pure white stars. Even the physical mass left behind in the structures of these megaports has disintegrated slowly, turning to black dust and rocks drifting through the void. Every one of the megaports left behind are nothing more than collections of echoing laws in the fabric of space. There is no longer any true energy illuminating this void around. The outer edges of the lower realm, bent into the fabric of space connected to the upper realm, there are faint flickering glyphs that form the shape of tree roots. They are a very faint white, and they appear to be flickering around jet black fossilized roots. The pristine white ether pathways that navigated the origin plane with ease are no longer present. When I examine the laws and rewind my memories to see what exactly happened, I see that after Abby and Seraphel met their end, and devoted all of their cultivation and inheritance into this primordial tree, it mutated into the largest Sentinel-class artifact ever created in this universe. While it is impossible to communicate directly with it on short timescales, and its intelligence is no greater than a common insect, its instincts and abilities are far more profound. It reminds me of the legacies left behind by the ancient dryads in the purple zone long ago. creating a forest of primordial trees. Yet, this creation is so much greater. It is the completed form of what the entire ancient race tried to do: create an immortal tree of life. The only key they were missing in their trials of the past were the laws of reality. Without strength recognized by the laws, undertaking such a feat would be impossible. Past overseers may have gathered enough of the ambient silver threads in this galaxy in order to form their immortal cores before the system was at its optimal strength. Yet, none of them managed to alter the laws that are maintained throughout every great cycle. Even Noctis, the strongest demon, who held the origin plane hostage for over 2 billion years. His tension on the membrane was never enough to truly alter the universal laws of nature. Abby alone did not achieve this feat. Even with the legacy she obtained from the Dryads, it would have been impossible to do so. The anomaly that bonded to her soul made the contribution to push her life's ambitions over the edge of success. It was the last blue wyvern. Seraphel comes from a race artificially created by Ember using his immortal golden core in a time of peril during the last few rebirths he has left in this galaxy. As the final member of his race, holding their entire legacy, the moment of his death accounts for the wyvern's extinction. The very law that Ember bent to create them has reverberated back into place. Yet, at the same time, there are immense fluctuations of ether, flawless grade glyphs, over 100 billion years of condensed advanced primordial aura, and the mental constitution of high royals that have witnessed the birth of the current overseers. Instead of the temporary shift in a universal law falling back into place, all of this energy surges forth to mutate and adapt its presence further. Even as the following trillion years pass, and the essence of life in this galaxy fades out into the membrane, this primordial tree maintains a physical form. Its structure is made out of a strange black stone that can only be found in one place within the upper realm, that is deep within the ravine where Maria and my avatars stand now. Taking in the current day remains of this museum of knowledge left behind, the entire floor of this zone of the upper realm has been replaced by flickering runes, all engraved into the mutated bark of the trunk of the primordial tree left behind. All of the ether arrays and physical structures that were built to contain these artifacts have disintegrated away long ago. There were many stone tablets, mana-based scriptures, and even pure ether-based glyph legacies that detailed the entire past of this galaxy. Every single civilization and race, whether it be 5th class or noble, their data was stored here. Yet, even the finest flawless grade containment arrays could not withstand the weight of 1 trillion years. They all degraded back to low-quality ether, then unrefined chi, and finally became so thin and powerless that the particles were no different than ordinary dust. The only containment arrays left behind are natural creations of the Sentinel that holds this dying galaxy together. It does not shield from the passage of time, but it does physically hold all of the artifacts in place. All of the ancient stones and creations of beings from the past eras of overseers have met the same fate as the data collected on them. The statues, pedestals, and glyphs carved into this ravine have all eroded and disappeared. They were never meant to last this long and have served their purpose, yet. There are a few large storage rooms holding strange black artifacts that have seemed to withstand the relentless passage of time. They are the artifacts I sensed resonate upon Abby and Seraphel's death. They all have mutated laws emanating from them, echoing back through the great cycles, replaying in my mind every time I glance through them. With a swift movement, I tether all of these ancient artifacts together and pull them into my mental storage space. Then, look up and down. The green zone is completely deserted. All of the tombs that covered the floor of the zone have slowly collapsed into dust without the presence of ether arrays to preserve them. Even the fortress has fallen back to the ground, appearing as an enormous black mound of sand sticking up out from the dull green clouds. None of the other citadels are faring any better. There is an extremely thin amount of chi in the air, similar to the density that was available on third-grade worlds in the lower realm 1.1 trillion years ago. There is only the presence of the primordial tree's trunk lining the outer layer of this zone, shimmering with glyphs. Other than this, there is no movement, as no life remains in this zone of the upper realm. In the cyan and blue zones, the vast majority of the towers have fallen. There are only 12 in total remaining, standing straight up in the far corners of the zone, half tethered to the thick black mutated bark of the primordial tree. These last containment towers do not hold any life either, but they do have pure stockpiles of low-quality ether still left behind. The millions of other buildings that housed entire races, and a high percentage of all life in this galaxy for billions of years, they have all crumbled to dust without the necessary energy for maintenance. The 12 towers that still stand are directly connected to the purple zone, where an immaculate obsidian black primordial tree's branches and leaves fill the dull purple sky. all of the outer settlements and main core areas of housing domains have gone completely dark, only the legacy domains still glow with the faint light of low-quality ether glyphs. Above in the sky, atop a few thousand of the highest leaves up in the primordial tree's canopy, there are faint flowing constructs, where some of the most ancient clans and factions have managed to survive even to this day. When I looked down at my status, I read, LV 9,999,913. There are less than 100 trillion system users remaining, living on inside simulated dungeon constructs made of mana, divine threads, and low-quality ether. Our avatars fade back into the membrane once again, and the strands of soul ties I pull at snap and dwindle even more. Chapter 1100, the silky white soul ties snap one by one, attached to the outer layers of the construct around the origin plane. There are some that reform slowly, but the decline is systematic and inevitable. Another full trillion years pass by, and I watch the soul ties dwindle down below 100 billion links of loyalty. My level has been slowly rising, but with such a small population of life, and their average levels falling every generation, I only reach LV 9,999,997 by the time I send a droplet of Emperor's Essence down to check again. While the deaths of the remaining life have added to the level count, the majority of the experience has come from the pure, flawless great ether that is refined from life itself falling out into the membrane upon each death, even life forms that only wield chi, or low-quality ether, in the depths of their souls. At the moment of their passing, there is a fragment of flawless great ether that returns to me every time. No matter what, Maria and I arrive back in the purple zone, where Abby's private domain once stood. We look down to view the largest leaves where the simulated domains housing all of the remaining life in the galaxy once stood. They were protected by large white ether arrays, and mana-imbued constructs held together by the natural purple divine threads in this zone. Yet, even these structures have degraded by time. All 12 towers in the blue and cyan zones holding the remaining energy that was powering these domains have been drained dry. When my avatar's senses scan through the top of this tree, I don't find a single domain left running. The air is basically devoid of energy. I visited some of the most desolate 5th-class worlds in the lower realm during the demonic era, and their air quality felt like paradise compared to this. When I scan the current lower realm, green zone, cyan zone, and blue zone to compare, I realize that they are all completely drained dry. It is like a vacuum has sucked up every last energy-rich particle to the top of the purple zone. The rest of this construct is as barren as the universe outside the membrane. You might be reading a stolen copy. Visit Royal Road for the authentic version. I feel just under 100 billion soul ties still linked to me, and even scroll through my system to view who or what they are. The average level hardly surpasses LV 2. The majority are only newly awakened beings, all at LV 1. It is extremely rare to see any life surpassing LV 10, but I do spot a few. It appears the new system mutations have granted rank ups to the lifeforms that make it to double digits. They are the very few leaders left in this era. Technology has regressed quite a bit. From the conversations I overhear in the spectate feeds I listen in on, there are many tales of long-lost gods and hundreds of religions that the current races believe in, without ether pathways to travel long distances, and no high levels of strength to do so manually. Every civilization is permanently stuck upon the leaf they were born on. Some of the smaller leaves are only a few tens of billions of kilometers wide, while others span trillions of kilometers. The last remaining races consist of ancient bloodlines. There are quite a few human clans, ogre and orc tribes, goblin factions, berserker armies, and a few lizard races that have made it throughout the ages. Many of them are isolated atop their leaves. Some have never even made it to the edge to find out that there are other leaves below. The grand arrays have all dissipated and fallen apart. The last colonies of life are living in reality to the very end. Every few thousand years, one of the enormous white, blue, or green glyphs left behind in the fossilized black primordial tree flickers to life. Some of the symbols are recorded, and new religions are formed. Other societies live in between the remaining glyphs upon black spots, only seeing bright flashes of light far off on the horizon, never to see where these divine glows originate from. It is a simple existence, and fascinating to see that the remnants of an older era are resting beneath these civilizations, most likely never to be discovered by mortal eyes again. I take one last look at the massive, black, glossy primordial tree the size of the entire galaxy. Without it, the natural barriers between zones would have dissipated long ago too. The very infrequent flickers of glyphs all over its trunk and roots are the last thing I see before fading back into my main body in the membrane. Maria and I pull on the remaining soul ties in silence. One by one, we watch them snap, grow weaker, and become so frail that each death grants us almost the same amount of ether that was making up the entire link. it takes another full trillion years for all of the microscopic particles of flawless great ether to be filtered out and pour into our bodies. I watch the total life in the galaxy fall below 1 billion, then below 1 million, and eventually even below 1,000. In these lower ranges, it fluctuates up and down as societies collapse and races rebuild and live on with less and less energy. Every once in a while, there is not enough energy left to go on, and another race goes extinct. Adding to the list of many that have been lost to time, my level reaches LV 9,999,999 as we pull the final soul ties, watching them all snap within my grasp. The last seeds of life, a human civilization resting in the center of a single leaf within the purple zone. I feel the last beads of flawless great ether squeeze out of this dead galaxy, merging with my immortal form.